Chapter 870. Dominant and dead, both cool and beautiful. _5. Seeing Mo Qishan walking over hand in hand with Ni Yang, Fu Xiaoshuang was quite surprised. Wasn't Mo Qishan known for not liking women? She had pursued Mo Qishan for over a year, but not once did he even glance her way. Unexpectedly, in the blink of an eye, Mo Qishan was with someone else. Fu Xiaoshuang was somewhat unable to accept it for a moment. In terms of timing, she was the one who knew Mo Qishan first. Logically, it should be her who ended up together with Mo Qishan. Although Du Jiaojiu's father was also a good catch, he already had 2 mistresses. What man in today's society still has multiple wives and concubines? In Fu Xiaoshuang's heart, she favored Mo Qishan slightly more, having given up on him previously because she thought he didn't like women. Had she known Mo Qishan liked women, she wouldn't have given up on him. Ni Yang was the only one unaware of Fu Xiaoshuang. So Du Jiaojiu took the initiative to introduce them. Xiaoshuang, this is my good friend Ni Yang. Yang Yang, this is my little sister Fu Xiaoshuang. She's 2 years older than you. You can just call her Sister Fu. Sister Fu. Yang Yang. Fu Xiaoshuang, who easily warmed up to people, immediately followed Du Jiaojiu and called out. The group sat down at a stone table in the garden, sipping tea and chatting leisurely. Fu Xiaoshuang seemed quite interested in Ni Yang, constantly engaging her in conversation. Ni Yang faintly felt that something was off about Fu Xiaoshuang but still greeted her with a smile. Du Jiaojiu's father looked up at Fu Xiaoshuang, a tinge of darkness flashing in his eyes, rotating the Buddha beads in his hand. Refill Miss Fuss cup, please. Of course. The servant by their side immediately poured tea for Fu Xiaoshuang. Fu Xiaoshuang wished she could dig up Ni Yang's ancestors. She had no interest in drinking tea at that moment. Du Jiaojiu pressed down on Fu Xiaoshuang's hand. Xiaoshuang, drink your tea first. She hadn't expected Fu Xiaoshuang to still be hung up on Mo Qishan. Had she known it would be like this, she wouldn't have suggested going to the back garden to drink tea. Du Jiaojiu deeply regretted it. On the way back, Mo Qishan took the initiative to explain to Ni Yang that Fu Xiaoshuang once pursued me. If she bothers you again in the future, just ignore her. Oh, I was wondering why Fu Xiaoshuang was acting so strangely. Ni Yang had a sudden realization. So she's interested in you. Mo Qishan looked at Ni Yang in surprise. Yang Yang, aren't you the least bit angry? He had thought Ni Yang would be very angry after hearing this. But instead, Ni Yang showed no reaction at all. Didn't Ni Yang's lack of anger mean she didn't care about him at all? Was she about to ask for a breakup next? Mo Qishan imagined 100 different possibilities, knitting his brows into a chuan shape. Ni Yang raised an eyebrow slightly, her lips curved with a gentle dimple. Someone liking you shows you're charming, and it also proves I have good taste. Why should I be angry? Besides, it's Fu Xiaoshuang's freedom to like who she wants. We don't live by the sea, so how can we be so controlling? Mo Qishan blanked for a moment. What does that have to do with your good taste? You dunce. Ni Yang laughed. It obviously means I have good taste in picking boyfriends. Really? Mo Qishan suddenly became excited. That meant there was still a whole group of people out there wanting to chase after him. Ni Yang continued. But you mustn't give them any undue hints and must keep your distance from them. You must always remember that you have a girlfriend. If I see you two-timing, we break up on the spot. Ni Yang was by no means joking. Although she liked Mo Qishan, if he ever betrayed her, she would break up immediately, cutting through the mess without a second's hesitation. Hearing the last 2 words, Mo Qishan's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly said, Wife, don't worry. I promise I want two-time. Those gaudy women out there. I promise I won't take a second look. If I take a second look, may lightning strike me. Seeing Mo Qishan taking it so seriously, Ni Yang laughed. Brother Mo, I know you're not that kind of person. I'm just laying it out in advance, just in case. Mo Qishan looked back at her earnestly. There won't be a just in case. The next day, Mo Qishan boarded a plane to F country. It was Ni Yang who took him to the airport. Also accompanying them was Du Jiaojiu's father. Brother Du, please take care of Yang Yang for me. Du Jiaojiao's father nodded. Rest assured. Yang Yang, I'm leaving. Mo Qixin went over to hug Ai Yang, and lastly, planted a kiss on her face. Chapter 871. Dominantly awesome, both cool and beautiful. _6. Mo Qixin held her and seemed reluctant to let go, and Ai Yang reminded him, Brother Mo, your boarding time is approaching. It will be delayed soon. Mo Qixin sighed and said in a low voice, Yang Yang, I can't bear to leave you. Don't worry, I'll write to you, and I'll call you when I can, Ai Yang said. In an era where communication tools were not well developed, making international calls was not easy. Writing letters was also inconvenient as it took a long time for them to arrive. Mo Qixin tightened his arms and hugged Ai Yang firmly before finally letting go. It was only after Mo Qixin's figure disappeared at the boarding gate that Ai Yang turned to leave. Brother Du, let's go. Okay. Du nodded and followed Ai Yang. The weather was very hot. Today, Ai Yang was not wearing a cheongsam but a simple white shirt and jeans. Even in such a simple outfit, she still caught everyone's eye, especially standing next to Du, who was clad in commoner's clothes. Throughout their walk, countless people turned to glance at them. Ai Yang glanced sideways. Aren't you hot wearing so much? In the 6th and 7th months of the lunar calendar, the scorching sun was high in the sky, and it was the hottest time. She felt hot even in a thin shirt, but Du seemed unaware of the heat. He still wore his commoner's clothes and cloth shoes, and, oddly enough, there wasn't a single bead of sweat on his forehead. Not hot. Du twirled his Buddha beads. I was born with a cold constitution, immune to heat and cold. Really? Ai Yang expressed her doubt. Do you want to check it? Du reached out his hand that was holding the Buddha beads. Ai Yang paused. How could I verify that? Du raised an eyebrow. Aren't you a doctor? Ai Yang had previously taken dust pulse, but she hadn't noticed this peculiarity then. Could there really be such a thing as a natural cold constitution? While walking, Ai Yang reached out to touch Dust's wrist and listened intently to his pulse. Your pulse seems to be different from that of a normal person. Du withdrew his hand. That's the cold body constitution. Ai Yang continued. Someone with your type of body would be more suited for medical research. What do you mean? Du asked. Ai Yang explained. Simply put, it means that after you pass away, donating your body to medical researchers for dissection could lead to new breakthroughs in China's medical history. Ai Yang hadn't planned on having much interaction with Du, but she had promised Mo Qixin to bring some warmth to this lonely old man. Life as a lonely elder was not easy. Du twitched his eyebrows. You're cursing me to die. Life and death are the common states of human existence. Ai Yang continued. I'm certainly not cursing you. Du, twirling his Buddha beads, agreed. You're right. While they were speaking, they reached the outside of the airport. The car was parked outside. Brother Du, Miss Ai, the driver said as he promptly opened the door for them. That morning, it had been Du who picked up Mo Qixin. Du was a very considerate man and, worried Ai Yang might be uncomfortable, he took the front passenger seat. Ai Yang sat in the back seat. Having talked with Mo Qixin all the night before and not sleeping well, Ai Yang was seated alone in the spacious back seat. She fell asleep within 3 minutes of getting in the car. A clear, picture-like face could be seen from the rearview mirror. Keep the speed down, Du instructed the driver in a low voice. Sure, the driver responded, immediately slowing down. The car drove slowly down the street when suddenly, hiss! The car, mid-drive, came to a stop. The sudden jolt woke Ai Yang. Have we arrived? The driver, careful not to upset Du, replied. Not yet. It seems the car has broken down. I'll go check. With that, the driver opened the door and stepped out of the car. Ai Yang followed suit. The driver lifted the hood and inspected it, fiddling around for quite a while without success. It seemed Du was growing impatient as he also opened the door and got out. What's the matter? The driver said. The problem seems serious. Brother Du, we might have to walk back. The airport was located in a remote suburb, no village in front nor a store in back, and they had no communication tools with them. It looked like they truly had to walk back. It's 30 kilometers from here to Demingxian, Du stated flatly. 30 kilometers? That probably meant walking all day. The driver fell silent. He feared he might lose his job. Just then, Yang walked over to the front of the car and looked down, then said, "Hand me the screwdriver." "Miss you know how to fix cars?" The driver was surprised but immediately handed Yang the screwdriver. Chapter 872. Dominant and Dead, Both Cool and Beautiful. Understood 7. I know a little. Yang took the screwdriver. In this era, where would you find a woman who can repair cars? Yang, in her past life, was never married and didn't have a boyfriend. She liked to go on road trips, and of course you need to know a bit about car repair for that. In case the car broke down on the road, she could fix minor issues by herself. Mr. Du's expression was indifferent. "Can you fix it?" Yang took the screwdriver handed over by the driver and quickly twisted off a part from the car. "I'll give it a try, but don't hold out too much hope. Be prepared to walk back at any moment." "Wrench?" Yang spoke again. In no time, those pale white hands were smeared with black dust and gasoline. The contrast of white and black was striking and highly conspicuous. After roughly 10 minutes, Yang, with a screwdriver and wrench in hand, carefully scratched her nose and raised her long legs to close the hood of the car. That posture, it had an indescribable coolness. Cool and beautiful. The driver was stunned. How long must her legs be to manage that move? The driver couldn't help but look down at his own legs. Yang put the wrench and screwdriver back into the toolbox and said to the driver, "Go ahead and give it another try." The driver nodded, pulled open the driver's door, inserted the key, and started the engine. "It's working. Miss you're really amazing." The driver was very excited to see the car start successfully. Yang, uncharacteristically humble, said, "I just got lucky and stumbled upon the solution." Getting into the car, Mr. Du said without looking back, "Yang, do you know how to drive?" "Yeah." Yang nodded. Recalling a certain image, Mr. Du continued, "Then your driving must be pretty good, right?" "It's decent." Yang kept it modest. "You're too modest," Mr. Du said. Yang agreed with a nod. "I think so too, Mr. Du." About 10 or so minutes later, they stopped in front of the Zheng family's house. Yang greeted Mr. Du and then pulled the car door open to get out. As soon as she got out, Zhang Xianjing came over from the other side. Yang, Sister Xianjing." Yang greeted with a smile, like a carefree young girl. "Who's sitting in the car?" Zhang Xianjing asked, even though she already knew. "Mr. Du," Yang answered. Zhang Xianjing continued, "There was a misunderstanding between Mr. Du and me last time. I'll go and say hello to Mr. Du." As she spoke, Zhang Xianjing had already approached the car door. "Mr. Du, do you remember me? I am Yang Yang's sister, Zhang Xianjing." Zhang Xianjing always felt that Mr. Du must be interested in her. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given her such a big gift when they first met. "Drive." Mr. Du ordered the driver to go, as if he hadn't seen Zhang Xianjing at all. What Zhang Xianjing was left with was only the dust flying all around. Zhang Xianjing's features were twisted in anger. Yang feigned ignorance. "Sister Xianjing, are you okay?" Zhang Xianjing mustered a small smile. "I'm fine, Yang. Didn't you promise to explain things to Mr. Du for me last time? Why does he still treat me this way when he sees me now?" Yang took Zhang Xianjing's hand. "I did explain for you. Don't lose heart, Sister Xianjing. I believe that if you persevere, Mr. Du will eventually let go of his prejudices against you." Zhang Xianjing narrowed her eyes, sensing that Yang might be toying with her. An illusion? It must be an illusion. Today was Saturday, and after dinner, Yang followed Cuihua and Shangguan Dehui, along with little Yun, to the Shangguan family. Zhang Suyu had been feeling quite well these past few days, so she sat at the dinner table with everyone during the meal. Suddenly, Zhang Suyu started foaming at the mouth, fell to the ground, and began convulsing in a somewhat terrifying manner. Mr. Zhang and Mrs. Zhang were startled and immediately put down their chopsticks, but they dared not touch Zhang Suyu, fearing they would cause further harm. They quickly turned to the servants. "Nyo ma! Nyo ma! Hurry and call Dr. Zhang." Zhang Suyu's condition was very critical at the moment, and Anai Yang immediately went over to administer first aid. Zhang Lingling said, "Yang Yang, you can't treat mental illnesses. Let's wait for Aunt Jiang to come. What if Aunt Suyu gets worse under your treatment?" Anai Yang didn't say a word. She looked up at Anai Tohua. "Mom, can you please go get my medical kit from my room?" She never allowed the house's servants to touch her medical kit, and only Anai Tsuehua knew where it was. "Okay." Anai Tsuehua nodded and immediately went upstairs to get the medical kit. Zhang Lingling was beside herself with worry. "Yang Yang, don't mess around. This is not the time to show off. Mom, Dad, you guys need to persuade Yang Yang." Zhang Lingling was still somewhat concerned about Anai Yang, especially after learning of Anai Yang's medical skills. If only they hadn't let Zhang Suyu, this ticking time bomb, stay. She regretted it. Zhang Lingling clenched her fists. Mrs. Zhang said, "Lingling, don't worry. Although Yang Yang is young, she knows what she's doing." After speaking, Mrs. Zhang continued, "Yang Yang, how is your grandma doing? She was fine just now. How could this happen to her?" This was the first time Zhang Suyu had ever had such a problem. Anai Yang's face looked grim. The situation isn't very optimistic. It seems it's time to try the 13 ghost points. But there were still many things about the 13 ghost points technique that Anai Yang hadn't fully figured out yet, and she wasn't 100% sure she could cure the condition. Hearing her words, Mrs. Zhang's face turned pale. "Then, what do we do?" Chapter 873. Zhang Suyu woke up, and Anai Yang's eyes lifted slightly. "Grandma, don't worry. I will do my utmost effort to cure Great Aunt." "Okay." Great Grandma Zhang nodded, her eyes unable to hide her concern. Hearing this, Zhang Lingling sighed with relief. From the meaning of Anai Yang's words, she knew that there wasn't much confidence in her ability to cure Zhang Suyu. Shortly after, Anai Tsuehua brought Anai Yang's medical box down from upstairs. Anai Yang took out sterilized medical cotton from the box and wiped the froth from Zhang Suyu's mouth. She wiped meticulously, her expression not showing the slightest disdain, as if she were not afraid of getting dirty. After a series of emergency measures had been taken, Anai Yang instructed 2 servants to carry Zhang Suyu upstairs. Old Master Zhang, Great Grandma Zhang, and the others also followed upstairs. The room was fitted with an air conditioning unit, and the cool breeze was blowing gently, not feeling stuffy at all. But Zhang Suyu's forehead was still beaded with layers of fine sweat. Anai Yang pressed her hand on Zhang Suyu's pulse and frowned slightly. Now, Zhang Suyu's problem was not only psychological, but her health was also in great jeopardy. In this situation, treatment needed to be administered as quickly as possible. Anai Yang wrote a prescription and handed it to Anai Tsuehua. "Mom, please go purchase the medicine listed here." "Okay." Anai Tsuehua nodded. "I'll drive you there," Shangguan Dehui said, following Anai Kuihua's steps. Not long after Anai Tsuehua left, the sound of hurried footsteps and Dr. Jiang's voice came from the doorway. "Aching, what happened to Suyu?" As soon as Dr. Jiang entered, she firmly grasped Great Grandma Zhang's hands, her wrinkled face full of worry. This made Anai Yang inexplicably think of Snow White's stepmother. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but Anai Yang felt there was something very wrong with Dr. Jiang. Great Grandma Zhang truly regarded Dr. Jiang as a dear sister. Her eyes instantly reddened. Suyu's condition is very bad. I'll go check on her," Dr. Jiang comforted. "Don't worry, Suyu will certainly be all right." "Okay." Great Grandma Zhang nodded. Carrying a medical box, Dr. Jiang approached the bedside. "Has Yang Yang already examined your great aunt?" Anai Yang nodded. Zhang Lingling quickly said, "Aunt Jiang, Yang Yang practices traditional Chinese medicine and doesn't have much research in mental diseases. Please examine Aunt Suyu quickly, don't delay her treatment. Dr. Jiang smiled and said, Lingling, don't worry. I find this child Yang Yang to be very steady. Medical skills are passed down from generation to generation, and the essence remains the same. Whether it's Western medicine or traditional Chinese medicine, each has its own quintessence. Somehow, hearing Dr. Jiang say this, Zhang Lingling's originally nervous heart immediately calmed down. Since Dr. Jiang was going to examine Zhang Suyu, Ai Yang did not stop her but stood up to give Dr. Jiang her place. Dr. Jiang took out a stethoscope, sphygmomanometer, and thermometer, and pressed them against Zhang Suyu's body. Her technique was very professional. Clearly, she was a very experienced old doctor. Zhang Lingling then asked, Aunt Jiang, how is Aunt Suyu? Dr. Jiang put down the stethoscope and spoke kindly. It's all right. Thanks to Yang Yang's timely emergency measures, Suyu is now out of danger. That's good, Zhang Lingling said. Aunt Jiang, we're entrusting Aunt Suyu's care to you. Dr. Jiang continued, I have to say, I'm embarrassed. Although I've been practicing medicine for many years and have spent my life as a doctor, my medical skills do not even compare to half of Yang Yang's. Yang Yang, you should continue treating your great aunt. Grandma Jiang, you flatter me too much, Ai Yang said humbly. I am just starting out, barely understanding the basics. How can I compare to you? You've been practicing for so many years and have a wide range of knowledge. What kind of cases haven't you seen? Zhang Lingling was anxious for Dr. Jiang to treat her, but Dr. Jiang kept insisting that Ai Yang should do it. Dr. Jiang appeared kind-hearted, but in truth, she had a hidden agenda. The more Ai Yang observed, the more she felt something was off. Dr. Jiang smiled at great-grandma Zhang. Ching, your granddaughter is truly clever and articulate, just like you when you were young. We don't see such modest young people nowadays. Great-grandma Zhang also felt very gratified to hear someone praise Ai Yang. Yang Yang takes after her great-aunt. Suyu was also smart when she was young. It's a pity. Suyu was temporarily short-sighted. In Western medicine, this is called depression. In the end, because her inner conflict remained unresolved, she ended up like this. In her youth, Zhang Suyu was a talented woman, but after experiencing betrayal and heartache, she never recovered. Chapter 874. Zhang Suyu woke up. _2. Upon hearing this, Ai Yang's eyebrows slightly raised. This Dr. Jiang was really no ordinary person. He even knew about depression. It seemed that he must have read quite a few books on psychiatry. Madame Zhang sighed and continued, Xiaoyan, how is Suyu doing now? How confident are you? Dr. Jiang said, I was not joking when I said my medical skills are not as good as Yang Yang's. I'm not confident I can cure Suyu's illness. Why not let Yang Yang have a look? As he spoke, Dr. Jiang added, Ching, your granddaughter will be successful one day. You just wait and enjoy the blessings she brings. Then I'll take your auspicious words. Madame Zhang turned her head to look at Ai Yang. Yang Yang, since your grandma Jiang says so, why don't you take a look at your auntie grandma? Okay. Ai Yang nodded. Dr. Jiang maintained a smile. I wonder, Yang Yang, how confident are you in curing your auntie grandma? Probably only 10%. Ai Yang answered. 10% confidence. This statement made Madame Zhang's brow twitch. Zhang Suyu was only 55 years old. Dr. Jiang looked at Ai Yang and said, It's really the younger generation that's to be feared. In my hands, your auntie grandma might not even have a chance for a 0.5% recovery, but in Yang Yang's hands, there's a 10% chance. Detecting the flattery in his words, Ai Yang said, Grandma Jiang, you're being too modest. It's just that my abilities are limited, Dr. Jiang sighed. I'm old now, and my medical skills aren't what they used to be. It's the younger generation's world now. Zhang Lingling frowned slightly and said, Aunt Jiang, what are you saying? Auntie Suyu has always been under your care. If it weren't for you over these years, Auntie Suyu might have. Dr. Jiang interrupted Zhang Lingling, his tone still cheerful. Lingling, thank you for holding Aunt Jiang in such high regard. But in life, you can refuse anything except old age. In medicine, it's said that metabolism is constant. Life is the same. It's about old thoughts gradually vanishing, while new ones grow. Isn't there also that saying? The blue is made out of the indigo, but is more brilliant than it. Zhang Lingling nodded. You're right. And Ai Yang held the gold needle in her hand and looked up at Zhang Lingling, her gaze subtly sweeping over Dr. Jiang. Something was not right with Zhang Lingling, nor with Dr. Jiang. These two, in one accord, seemed very suspicious. Yet, when all their words were put together, there was no tangible problem to pinpoint. After a long time had passed, Anai Tsuehua and Shangguan Dehui returned. Madame Zhang quickly asked, Ting Ting, have you bought the medicine? Anai Tsuehua nodded. It's already been bought, and it's being prepared in the kitchen now. After speaking, Anai Tsuehua then saw Dr. Jiang. She was taken aback at first, then greeted Dr. Jiang, Aunt Jiang. For some reason, every time she saw Dr. Jiang, Anai Tsuehua felt a strange sensation inside. It was as if she had seen Dr. Jiang somewhere before. Ting Ting is back. Dr. Jiang was always very kind, no matter who she saw, because Madame Zhang was worried about Zhang Suyu. It was Zhang Lingling who escorted Dr. Jiang out. After Zhang Lingling had left, Anai Tsuehua curiously asked, Mom, did I ever meet Aunt Jiang when I was little? No. Madame Zhang shook her head. When your Aunt Jiang came from M country, you were no longer by my side. Anai Tsuehua had been missing for several months when Madame Zhang's sister and brother-in-law met with their accident. Before that, Dr. Jiang had been abroad. After speaking, Madame Zhang continued, Ting Ting, why do you ask? Anai Tsuehua replied, Nothing much. It's just that Aunt Jiang looked so familiar, as if I've seen her somewhere before. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong. Madame Zhang nodded. I see. And Ai Yang felt something was amiss and asked, Grandma, how did you know Grandma Jiang? Recalling the past, Madame Zhang's face showed her years, and with a sigh, she began to recount that period of time. Upon hearing her, Ai Yang said, So when Grandma Jiang brought back my grandaunt, we had already been missing for several months? Madame Zhang said, More than 3 months. When did great-aunt and great-uncle meet with their accident? And Ai Yang continued to inquire. Madame Zhang thought for a moment and then said, It was probably the 2nd month after your mother went missing. Back then, communication was not advanced, and neither was transportation, so by the time we received the news, your great-aunt and great-uncle's funerals had already been dealt with. Chapter 875. Zhang Suyu regains consciousness. _3. Grandma Jiang had been living in M country before this? And Ai Yang followed up with another question. Yes. Mrs. Zhang nodded and continued. Back in the day, your great-aunt and Grandma Jiang were as close as real sisters. Later, when your great-aunt passed away, Grandma Jiang, fearing that returning would renew her grief, never went back and stayed in Beijing. So, there was no chance for my mom to meet Grandma Jiang, and Ai Yang said. Mrs. Zhang continued, That's why I said perhaps your mom was mistaken. Grandma, where did you and Grandpa work in the beginning? And Ai Yang asked. In Yicheng, Mrs. Zhang replied. Mentioning that sorrowful place made her feel uncomfortable. And Ai Yang frowned slightly. But my mom grew up in Haicheng. Grandma, Haicheng is over 3,000 kilometers from Yicheng. Haicheng is over 3,000 kilometers from Yicheng. In times with developed transportation, it takes 2 days and nights by train, 9 hours by high-speed rail, and 4 hours by plane. In an era of extremely poor economic conditions and transportation options, how could a 3-year-old girl possibly cross 3,000 kilometers? There was a big problem with this. Mrs. Zhang's eyes reddened slightly. Actually, when I first saw your mom at the state-run big hotel, I felt she was my daughter, especially little Yun Yun. She looked exactly like your mom when she was young. But later, when I asked your mom where she was from, and she said she was from Haicheng, my heart felt half cold. Mrs. Zhang thought the same as Ai Yang at that time. It was impossible for a 3-year-old girl to travel so far. It wasn't until the DNA result came out that I dared to confirm that your mom was my daughter. Now that I think about it, she might have been abducted by child traffickers to Haicheng. And Ai shook her head. At that time, the preference for sons over daughters was at its worst. My mom grew up in the countryside, and my maternal grandfather's family wasn't well off. They wouldn't have spent money to buy a daughter. So, the probability of child traffickers is practically zero. In China, the preference for sons over daughters only started to improve after the year 2000. Before that, nearly two-thirds of families preferred sons over daughters. There were rampant cases of abandoning baby girls, which child trafficker would waste their energy to steal a girl and then sell her to the countryside. Even traffickers would normally sell to families that were well off and unable to have children. And Ai Tsuehua grew up in a rural area with harsh conditions, never even attending school as a child. If you look at the issue from another angle, you would realize that someone wanted to ruin an Ai Tsuehua, ensuring she'd never have a chance to succeed in life. Upon hearing this, an Ai Tsuehua said, Yang, actually when I was younger, your grandfather's family wasn't that poor. And Ai frowned slightly. But in my memory, Grandpa's family was poorer than our old home, with just 2 earthen rooms that leaked whenever it rained. And Ai Tsuehua continued, your grandfather's family had quite good conditions until I was 11. Later, he got hooked on opium, and that's when our family's fortune gradually dwindled away. Then why didn't Grandpa send you to school? And Ai asked. And Ai Tsuehua chuckled bitterly. You know what our place was like? Typical preference for sons over daughters. Little girls around my age, including Aunt Danny, none of them went to school. And Ai furrowed her brows slightly and then said, Mom, when did you start to remember things? And Ai Tsuehua continued, I was particularly slow as a child. I didn't start remembering things until I was 8 or 9 years old. That was a bit strange. Ordinary children start to form memories by the ages of 5 or 6. Children with a bit more talent start remembering things around the ages of 3 or 4. And Ai Tsuehua was not slow. If she were, she wouldn't have been able to learn to read so quickly, nor would she have mastered English so swiftly. Meanwhile, Zhang Lingling escorted Dr. Zhang out the door. After making sure no one was around, Zhang Lingling finally spoke. Aunt Zhang, why didn't you treat Aunt Suyu just now? Not feeling reassured about Ai Yang? Dr. Zhang looked up at Zhang Lingling. Yes. Zhang Lingling nodded her head. Dr. Zhang kept a smile on her face while her ears stayed alert to the sounds around her. Ai Yang has excellent medical skills, so don't worry. How can you ask me not to worry? Zhang Lingling was anxious. You know very well. Dr. Zhang interrupted Zhang Lingling before she could finish. You child, how come you only grow older but not wiser? I think even Xianjing has more sense than you. Chapter 876. Zhang Suyu regains consciousness. _4. Zhang Lingling remained silent. The doctor continued, It's a good thing Xianjing isn't like you. Xianjing is very smart. She just tends to be a bit impatient sometimes and needs to temper herself. After saying this, the doctor added, Although your mother didn't say anything, I can tell that she has become guarded against me. If I get involved in Suyu's matters, what will happen? Well, you should be very aware of that without me saying anything. The doctor was a clever person, and she could tell Ai Yang was also clever. That young lady, despite her tender age, was by no means naive. Hearing this, Zhang Suyu turned pale. Does my mother not trust even you now? The doctor looked at Zhang Lingling. Lingling, remember this. Outsiders will always be outsiders. If it were you, would you believe your own daughter's words? Or would you trust an outsider? But you're different, Zhang Lingling interjected. You and she have been close friends for over 30 years, closer even than relatives. How could she treat you like this? The doctor had weathered many storms with her for over 30 years. How could this old hag be so heartless? To even doubt the doctor. The doctor wasn't angry at all and said with a smile, People are all self-interested. Actually, there's nothing wrong with that. I just want to tell you that I can't intervene in this matter. But Ai Yang said she is 10% sure. 10% sure means there's a glimmer of hope. If you don't step in, then we can only sit and wait for doom. What's the rush? The doctor's face remained benevolent. Lingling, have you ever heard this saying? Zhang Lingling was not in the mood to play guessing games with the doctor and asked bluntly, "What saying?" The doctor smiled. "A tree dies when moved, but a person lives on." "What do you mean by that?" Zhang Lingling was a bit confused. The doctor looked back at the Zhang family villa and continued. "An Yang is currently in charge of Suyu's condition. During this time, try to visit the kitchen as little as possible, and if you must go, avoid doing so when medicine is being prepared. Also, if you're going to visit Suyu, it's best to do it with your sister or accompany your mother. Never leave any backlash that people could talk about." "Is it really necessary to make it so complicated?" Zhang Lingling felt the doctor was making a mountain out of a molehill. "Very necessary," the doctor insisted. "The Zheng family of today is not the Zheng family of the past. Especially do not underestimate An Yang. That young lady might only be 19, but she can handle 10 of you easily." Finally, the doctor added, "I never misjudge people." Yet Zhang Lingling didn't feel An Yang was impressive at all. "She's just been lucky to catch the eye of Mr. Tuesday. It's pretty shameless, really. On one hand, she's all lovey-dovey with that useless Mo-chishan, and on the other, she's flirting with Mr. Tuesday. I don't know what Mr. Tu sees in her. If it weren't for An Yang, Xianjing would now be Mr. Tu's lifesaver." "That is An Yang's skill," the doctor said. "In any case, do not underestimate An Yang." After thinking a bit more, the doctor continued, "I remember there was a time when Xianjing and Mo-chishan were quite close. What about now?" Zhang Lingling replied, "Don't worry. That's all in the past. Xianjing isn't stupid. How could she waste time on someone like that loser Mo-chishan?" "That's good," the doctor said, stopping in her tracks. "I'll leave you here, go back quickly. Remember what I said, and don't get too involved in Suyu's affairs." Zhang Lingling was somewhat worried. "But if I don't get involved, what if?" The doctor said with a smile. "Even if something happens, isn't that child still there? Lingling will always find a way to keep her quiet. Right?" Zhang Lingling's eyes lit up, and she instantly felt relieved. "Take care on your way." The doctor headed towards the intersection, where a young man on a bicycle came to pick her up. "Auntie, Jigang is here," the doctor said with a smile. This person was Jiang Jigang, the doctor's nephew, 22 years old. Jiang Jigang was usually lazy and gluttonous, addicted to gambling, and was so desperate for money at times that he would even hit his own parents. But he dared not offend the doctor lightly, because the doctor was not only wealthy but also backed by the Zheng family. Jiang Jigang then said, "My dad sent me to pick you up for dinner at our place." "All right." The doctor settled herself on the back seat of the bicycle. Chapter 877. Zhang Suyu regains consciousness. _5. Because Zhang Suyu's condition was very bad. So, the next day, An Yang began to prepare to use the Ghost Gate 13 needles. Ghost Gate 13 needles involved not only medical problems but also metaphysical issues. An Yang had looked up quite a bit of material during this time and found that many people had suffered the backlash of the Ghost Gate 13 needles. Only people blessed with continuous fortune could perform the needling. After her resurrection, An Yang had once saved 2 people's lives. Before her resurrection, she was also charitable, having supported many orphanages and impoverished regions, using her medical skills to treat many people. She should be considered a person with blessings. An Yang prepared all the tools and then said to the elders Zhang at her side, "Grandpa, Grandma, I am going to perform acupuncture on Great Aunt now. Please leave for a while, and during this time don't let anyone in." The Ghost Gate 13 needles were most taboo against disturbances from outsiders. Elder Zheng nodded his head. "Okay, Yang, you do the acupuncture with peace of mind. Your grandma and I will stand guard outside the door, and we won't let anyone come in. It's hard on you and Grandma. It's what we should do." As long as his sister Zhang Suyu could get better, Elder Zheng was willing to do anything. Elder Zheng left with Elder Mrs. Zheng, and in the blink of an eye, only An Yang and Zhang Suyu, who was lying in bed, were left in the room. and Ai Yang first took out her self-made ointment. The ointment was light yellow, not smelling of medicine but rather of a faint fragrance of flowers. This was an ointment Ai Yang had made from gathering various flowers, along with Solomon's seal and fleeceflower root, specially for Zhang Suyu's illness. According to ancient texts, using this ointment while performing the Ghost Gate 13 needles would produce twice the effect with half the effort. Ai Yang dabbed a bit of ointment with her finger and then slowly twirled it onto the tip of the needle. A total of 13 gold needles. They corresponded to Renzhong Acupoint, Shaoshang Acupoint, Yinbai Acupoint, Daling Acupoint, Xinmai Acupoint, Fengfu Acupoint, Jiacha Acupoint, Chengjiang Acupoint, Laogong Acupoint, Shangxing Acupoint, and Huiyin Acupoint. Under normal circumstances, only one needle could be used per day, but Zhang Suyu's condition was very bad right now, so Ai Yang had to take the risk of completing all 13 needles in one day. The ancient texts recorded, for illnesses caused by 100 demons running wild, there are 13 acupoints that must be known. Always start with Ghost Palace, then proceed with Ghost Trust and all will answer. First needle Renzhong, second Shaoshang. This first needle required extreme caution upon caution. Moreover, the layout of the Ghost Gate 13 needles was different from ordinary acupuncture. The method for the first needle was diagonally insert the needle from the bottom up, 3 to 5 fin deep. If it exceeded 5 centimeters, the accuracy of the subsequent 12 needles would be for naught, even if they were precisely placed. Ai Yang sat in front of the window, slowly angled the gold needle into the Renzhong acupoint, gently twirling it. The next second, she suddenly let go. The depth of the needle was exactly 5 centimeters. Ai Yang immediately picked up the second gold needle. Then the third needle, the fourth needle. Minutes and seconds passed. The cool breeze wafted through the room, yet beads of sweat still appeared on Ai Yang's forehead. No wonder the ancient texts said that the Ghost Gate 13 needles were extremely sinister, where only one needle could be used per day, and at most not more than 3 needles. Ai Yang had only inserted 6 needles and already felt that her physical strength was almost at its limit. Ai Yang steadied her spirit, then picked up the 7th needle. The 7th needle was Jiacha Acupoint. The needling method was to pierce directly from outside to inside to a depth of 1.5 centimeters. 1.5 centimeters was a bit difficult to judge by the naked eye, especially under Ai Yang's current state of fatigue. Ai Yang squinted her eyes, swiftly and accurately inserted the needle into the Jiacha Acupoint. Exactly 1.5 centimeters, not a fraction more or less. For the following 6 needles, Ai Yang did not encounter any problems. During this time, Zhang Lingling came once, saw the door tightly closed, and seeing Elder Zhang and Elder Mrs. Zhang guarding the door with grave faces, she asked, "Dad, Mom, what's going on?" Elder Zhang was not in the mood to talk, his brow deeply furrowed. Elder Mrs. Zhang concisely explained the situation. Zhang Lingling felt panicked inside, wondering if Zhang Suyu was really going to wake up. This couldn't be. She had to get ready. I was originally planning to come and see Aunt Suyu, but since Yang Yang is performing acupuncture on her inside right now, I won't disturb them. With that, Zhang Lingling turned and walked downstairs. After descending the stairs, she secretly called Dr. Jiang. Approximately 3 hours later, the room door opened. A large beam of sunlight shone in from outside the door, dispelling the gloom inside the room, and lighting Ai Yang's pale face almost to transparency. Chapter 878. Zhang Suyu is awake. _6. The 13 ghostly needles had drained her of too much energy. She was too tired now. Seeing Ai Yang like this, the elderly Mrs. Zhang was startled. "Yang Yang, are you all right?" The elderly Mr. Zhang was also deeply frightened and quickly instructed the servants. "Hurry and call the doctor." "No need." Ai Yang rubbed her temples. "Don't call the doctor, I'm fine. Grandpa, Grandma, you should go in and check on Aunt Suyu." After all, as someone who had been reborn, Ai Yang didn't take this slight fatigue to heart. "Has your aunt awakened?" Mr. Zhang asked. Ai Yang nodded. Yes. Mr. and Mrs. Zhang, brimming with excitement, hurried into the house. Just then, Zhang Lingling came upstairs from below and upon hearing this, excitedly said, "Has Aunt Suyu awakened? Oh Yang Yang, you are really amazing." Zhang Lingling followed Mr. and Mrs. Zhang into the house. Inside, Zhang Suyu had indeed woken up. She was sitting up in bed, her gaze no longer as empty and lifeless as before but filled with a touch of sadness and sorrow. Mrs. Zhang's eyes instantly turned red. "Suyu, Suyu, you're better now, aren't you? You're back, aren't you?" Zhang Suyu looked at the elderly Mrs. Zhang in front of her, first stunned, then perplexed. "Old lady, who are you?" Mrs. Zhang's eyes widened, unbelievingly staring at Zhang Suyu. "Suyu, don't you remember who I am?" Zhang Suyu shook her head. "And me? Suyu, do you remember who I am?" Mr. Zhang leaned in close to Zhang Suyu. Zhang Suyu stared intently at Mr. Zhang, surprised. "Brother, you're my brother. Brother, how did you become like this?" In her memory, her brother was very handsome. Even in middle age, he was still vibrant. The elderly man in front of her, bent over, his face full of wrinkles, his hair completely white, was vastly different from the brother in her memory. "Suyu." Mr. Zhang could no longer restrain himself and embraced Zhang Suyu. "Brother, what happened to you? Are you sick?" For a moment, Mr. Zhang released Zhang Suyu. His eyes red as he looked at An Yang. "Yang Yang, what happened to your aunt?" An Yang continued. "During the acupuncture, there was a rejection reaction, causing Aunt Suyu to lose her memories of the past 30 years. So, the way she remembers you is still from 30 years ago." Zhang Suyu seemed confused by An Yang's words. "Brother? Who is she?" "Suyu, this is Tingting's daughter, called Yang Yang," Mr. Zhang said. "Tingting." Zhang Suyu thought for a moment. Wasn't Tingting lost? Has she been found again? Seeing his sister truly recover, Mr. Zhang was overwhelmed with emotion, tears streaming down his face. "We found her. Suyu, we have already found Tingting." Zhang Suyu had just woken up, and everything felt cloudy and unclear. Her past was all very vague, like a dream. Zhang Lingling got closer and said to Zhang Suyu, "Aunt Suyu, do you remember me?" "I'm Lingling. I have a daughter named Xianjing. When she was little, you used to hold her often." "Lingling, Lingling." This voice sounded like an incantation, and the scene in front of her began to merge with a scene in her mind. Zhang Suyu's pupils constricted. "Suyu, you finally woke up. Do you remember me? I am Jiang Yan." The doctor entered from outside. "Zhang Lingling, Jiang Yan." Tears welled up in Zhang Suyu's eyes in that instant. She remembered. She remembered everything. At that moment, Dr. Jiang hugged Zhang Suyu tightly and choked out, "Suyu, you finally woke up. Finally woke up. That's wonderful. I knew Yang Yang would definitely find a way to cure you." Zhang Suyu's entire body trembled as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. Just as Zhang Suyu was about to push Dr. Jiang away, Dr. Jiang held her tightly, his gaze gradually turning cold, and in a very low voice said, "Do you remember that poor child? Poor child? What child?" And Yang subtly moved her ear and clearly caught this phrase. She knew something was not right with Dr. Jiang. It seemed that the matter would have to start with this child. She must not spook anyone for now. And Yang narrowed her eyes, a sharp gleam reflecting in them. Normally, such a quiet voice would be inaudible to ordinary people, but Yang was no ordinary person. Ever since her rebirth and saving lives, her senses had been several times more acute than those of an average person. After hearing this, Zhang Suyu's tightly clenched fist gradually relaxed. Her blood seemed to flow backward. She bit her teeth tightly, almost unable to control herself, and muttered with her head down, "I don't remember. I've forgotten you?" Dr. Jiang's eyes reddened. "How can you just forget like that? Suyu, I am Jiang Yan. You used to call me Xiaoyan. I don't remember." Zhang Suyu pulled the blanket around her and shrank back. "Suyu, take a good look at me." Aunt Suyu patted Dr. Jiang on the shoulder. "Suyu has even forgotten me. It's normal for her to forget you too. As long as she is all right, that's all that matters." Dr. Jiang wiped away his tears, looking at Zhang Suyu. Ching is right. As long as she is all right, that's what matters. We can think about the rest slowly. I believe one day you will remember me. Next, Aunt Suyu introduced Ni Yang and Zhang Lingling to Zhang Suyu and mentioned the events that had happened over the years in the Zhang family. Suyu, Tingting and her husband Dehui have gone to her husband's family. I have already sent someone to notify them. They will come back tonight. Zhang Suyu nodded. I would like to rest now. You all should leave. Dr. Jiang said with concern. Suyu, then rest well. I will come see you tomorrow. Aunt Suyu sighed, somewhat worriedly said, Suyu, then we will leave first. But if you need anything or remember anything, make sure to call us. Zhang Suyu said nothing more, lay down, and covered her head with the blanket. It seemed like she was avoiding something. After everyone left, Zhang Suyu hid under the blankets, and soon, low sobs could be heard from within the blanket, constrained and oppressive. Downstairs, Dr. Jiang greeted Aunt Suyu with a smile. Ching, I always said your granddaughter is smart. I treated Suyu for so many years without results, but as soon as Yang Yang stepped in, Suyu woke up. Aunt Suyu too smiled broadly. Her daughter was found, and Zhang Suyu had awoken. She had no regrets left in this life. Chapter 879. Cunning Yang Yang. Grandma Zhang said with a smile. This child is indeed clever, certainly smarter than this old lady. It's our family's good fortune from the past life to have such a wonderful granddaughter. Zhang Lingling looked at Ni Yang, her features nearly contorting with jealousy and anger. Ni Yang had become a treasure, while Zhang Xianjing was now mere grass. Who in the vast Zhang family even remembered Zhang Xianjing now? Before Ni Yang's arrival, Zhang Xianjing was the only granddaughter of the Zhang family, a master in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, and a famous socialite within their circles. After the last birthday banquet, however, Zhang Xianjing had become a laughingstock. It was Ni Yang who had stolen everything from Zhang Xianjing. Had it not been for Ni Yang, Zhang Xianjing would still be the sole heir to the Zhang family. Now, Zhang Lingling wished she could just strangle Ni Yang. Dr. Jiang was right, the most difficult person to deal with in the Zhang family was Ni Yang. Ni Yang, seeming young, actually had a high level of cunning, more difficult to deal with than 100 Ni Quihuas. Without Ni Yang, Ni Tsuehua wouldn't even be able to stand a chance against the Zhang family. Ni Yang felt a bit dizzy and stood up, saying, Grandpa, Grandma, I'm feeling a bit lightheaded. They'll go upstairs to rest for a while. Old Master Zhang hurriedly stood up, saying, Of course, go ahead, and we'll call you when it's time to eat. Ni Yang nodded and walked upstairs. The 13 ghost needles were very draining, and Ni Yang almost fell asleep as soon as she lay down on the bed. Dr. Jiang didn't stay long at the Zhang families either, chatted with Grandma Zhang for a while, and then left. Just as Dr. Jiang got home, Zhang Lingling and Sun Wu showed up right on her heels. Now that Zhang Suyu had awoken, Zhang Lingling was, of course, anxious. And she wasn't the only anxious one. Sun Wu was too. Sun Wu had lived more than 20 years of good life, and if Zhang Suyu spilled everything, without the big tree of the Zhang family to lean on, what would become of him? Would he have to go back to facing the cold winds of the northwest? Dr. Jiang looked at Zhang Lingling, slightly surprised. Why are you here? Zhang Lingling placed her bag on the coffee table. Aunt Jiang, as you've seen, Aunt Suyu's condition is worrying. What do we do now? We can't just sit around and wait for death. Can we? Dr. Jiang poured Zhang Lingling a glass of water. We've gotten through many years. What's the rush? Where did Zhang Lingling have the mind to drink water now? Holding the cup, she said, Aunt Jiang, I think Aunt Suyu seems to have realized something. If this continues, and she recalls everything one day, we're all finished. The more Zhang Lingling thought about it, the more panicked she became, her face turning pale with fear. You're not wrong, Dr. Jiang nodded. Zhang Suyu has indeed recovered all her memories. Even Dr. Jiang hadn't expected Ni Yang's medical skills to be so proficient, enough even to cure Zhang Suyu's hysteria. From the beginning, she hadn't underestimated Ni Yang, only to find she had still underestimated her in the end. And Ai Yang was even more formidable than she had imagined. Crash! The cup in Zhang Lingling's hand fell directly to the ground, shattering into pieces. Suyu. Aunt Suyu really remembered everything? Really? Before Dr. Jiang could finish her sentence, Sun Wu sprang up from the sofa. It's over. We're done for. We need to flee right now. Is that really all the backbone you have? Dr. Jiang looked at Sun Wu, speaking sternly. Running away is the most cowardly solution. After all these years of hard work at the Zheng family, do you really want to end up as street rats that everyone wants to bash? With that said, Dr. Jiang turned to look at Zheng Lingling. And you, Lingling, you've been with the Zheng family for 35 years, and Xianjing is already 21. How can you still be like before, making no progress at all? Losing your head over a little trouble. With this attitude of yours, how do you expect to push out an Ai Yang and become the matriarch of the Zheng family? Dr. Jiang was smiling as she said this, but Zheng Lingling saw no warmth in that smile. Zheng Lingling opened her mouth, then continued, So what should I do? Zhang Suyu had already awakened, and those dark secrets would inevitably surface one day. For Zheng Lingling, the current Zhang Suyu was like a time bomb, capable of detonation at any moment. She wasn't Dr. Jiang. She didn't have such a strong heart. Don't worry. Dr. Jiang took a syringe out of the medicine box, squeezing out the excess air inside. Zhang Suyu won't dare to speak carelessly. Seeing Dr. Jiang like this, a sudden thought seemed to strike Zheng Lingling. Right. There's also that child. As she spoke, she continued, But what about an Ai Yang? An Ai Yang is so clever. She will definitely notice something. Chapter 880. Cunning Yang Yang _2. Dr. Jiang laughed, then plunged the cold syringe directly into his own arm, slowly pushing the plunger as the transparent liquid seeped into his vein. Then let's make her the second Zhang Suyu. The second Zhang Suyu? Sun Wu's eyes lit up. That's a good idea. It saves me from having to look at their family of 4, which I find so unpleasant. Before Shangguan Dehui arrived, Sun Wu was the only son-in-law of Master Zheng and Madame Zheng. Now, with Shangguan Dehui around, who was capable and ambitious, Sun Wu distinctly felt a change in Master Shangguan and Madame Shangguan's attitude towards him. Zheng Lingling frowned. It's easier said than done. An Ai Yang is not Zhang Suyu, someone we can easily manipulate. Dr. Jiang opened his eyes. You think Zhang Suyu was a pushover? Before this, Zhang Suyu was known throughout Beijing as the talented woman of Beijing. Back in the day, Zhang Suyu enjoyed limitless prestige, and in the end, she still ended up as the crazy old woman that everyone despised. The difference between a talented woman and a mad woman is but a single thought. So what do you plan to do? Zheng Lingling looked at Dr. Jiang. Let the most harmless person in the Zheng family do it, Dr. Jiang said. Zheng Lingling narrowed her eyes. Are you referring to Aunt Suyu? Dr. Jiang laughed outright. Lingling, you've finally caught on for once. Will she listen to you? Zheng Lingling countered. Dr. Jiang said, I can't frequent the Zheng household, so you need to handle this. Strike the snake at its weakest spot, and now Zheng Suyu's weakest spot is that child. Sun Wu said, But that child isn't... Shut up. Dr. Jiang directly interrupted Sun Wu before he could finish. Sun Wu quickly shut his mouth. Zheng Lingling nodded. I think I know what to do. Here, take this. Dr. Jiang handed Zheng Lingling a white glass bottle. Before Zheng Lingling could speak, Dr. Jiang continued. This liquid is colorless and tasteless. Give it to Zhang Suyu. I believe she will find a way to make an Ai Yang drink it. Okay. Zheng Lingling reached out and took the glass bottle. Dr. Jiang added, An Ai Yang is a doctor herself and much more sensitive to medications than most people. Tell Zhang Suyu to make an Ai Yang drink it in 3 separate doses. Zheng Lingling nodded and then said, Zhang Suyu recovered from a severe illness before. What if this medicine has no effect on an Ai Yang? Dr. Jiang looked at Zheng Lingling and countered, Lingling, do you know who the safest person in this world is? Zheng Lingling paused. not catching on. Dr. Jiang continued, "The dead are the safest in this world." Realizing the deeper meaning in Dr. Jiang's words, Zhang Lingling's face turned pale with fright. Do we really have to do this? Although Zhang Lingling also wished for Ni Yang to die, she was more afraid of going to jail. The consequences would be unimaginable if this were to be discovered. This was also why she had never truly acted against the old Zhang couple. Patting Zhang Lingling's shoulder, Dr. Jiang reassured, "To prevent an accident like what happened to Zhang Suyu, we have no choice but to do this. Lingling, don't let being too kind become your greatest weakness. If you had been decisive earlier instead of being indecisive, things wouldn't have ended up like this. Now you only have two choices. Either Ni Yang dies, or your whole family perishes." Zhang Lingling was ashen. Sun Wu, usually a docile man, was not afraid at all. "Aunt Jiang is right. Lingling, you have always been too indecisive. If we had taken care of those two old folks back then, where would Ni Yang, that little wench, get the chance to cause trouble?" Zhang Lingling's legs trembled. "This way, we will end up in jail." Seeing Zhang Lingling's hesitant demeanor, Dr. Jiang became somewhat irritated. Dr. Jiang snatched the glass bottle from Zhang Lingling's hand. "If you are too scared, then let's forget about this. After all, you are not a blood relative of the Zhang family. Let the Zhang fortune go to Zhang Tingting and Ni Yang." Sun Wu quickly interjected, Aunt Jiang, please don't be angry. Lingling is just confused momentarily." Zhang Lingling stood there stunned. With Sun Wu's persuasion, Dr. Jiang's expression finally softened a bit, and then he said, "With Zhang Suyu taking the heat up front, what are you afraid of?" Following Dr. Jiang's lead, Sun Wu said, "Lingling, Aunt Jiang is right. Even if things are exposed later, there's still that crazy woman Zhang Suyu. What are you scared of? It's not you who is poisoning Ni Yang." Chapter 881. Cunning Yang _3. If, just if, there are no ifs. Dr. Jiang impatiently interrupted Zhang Lingling's words. "Lingling, do you think you'll be safe if you don't do this? Have you forgotten what you've done before? If Ni Yang finds out about those things, wouldn't even one of them be enough to put you behind bars?" Zhang Lingling was stunned again. Dr. Jiang sighed deeply, speaking earnestly. "Lingling, it hasn't been easy for us to get to this point. I don't want you to give up the glory and wealth before your eyes so easily, letting it fall into someone else's hands. The hardships of over 30 years of wind and rain, only those who've experienced it could truly understand." Sun Wu quickly said, "Even for Xianjing's sake, we have to fight. Xianjing is used to living as a wealthy lady. Going from luxury to frugality is hard. If she loses the Zheng family, how will she live in the future? Are you willing to let Ni Yang take away everything that belongs to Xianjing?" "Unwilling. How could Zhang Lingling be willing to let Ni Yang take away what belonged to Zhang Xianjing?" "Aunt Jiang." Zhang Lingling looked up at Dr. Jiang. "I'll listen to you." Dr. Jiang nodded in satisfaction. "I'm old. Wealth and power are fleeting to me. I'm doing all this for your family of 3, Lingling. While we still have a hold over Zhang Suyu's Achilles heel, you must seize this opportunity." "Understood. I appreciate all your hard work." Zhang Lingling nodded. Meanwhile, Ni Yang had been asleep for over 2 hours, and by the time she woke up, it had already grown dark outside the window. After sleeping, Ni Yang felt much better. She washed her face in the restroom and changed into clean clothes. As Ni Yang was about to head downstairs, there was a knock at the door. Yang. It was Ni Kuihua's voice. Ni Yang went to open the door. "Mom, when did you come back?" Ni Tsuhua was holding a tray with slices of bread and milk. "I've been home for a while. Dinner won't be for a bit. Have some bread to tide you over." Ni Yang picked up the bread and milk, then asked, "Did you visit Grandma?" "I did." Ni Tsuhua nodded. "Grandma doesn't seem to be doing very well." Ni Yang frowned subtly. "Is Zhang Lingling home?" "You child. How can you call her by name like that?" Ni Tsuhua continued. "It would sound so bad if others heard it. While Zhang Lingling was indeed acting duplicitously, she hadn't openly made things difficult for Ni Yang. In the eyes of others, she was still a good aunt. If someone overheard Ni Yang calling Zhang Lingling by name, they might misjudge her as an ingrate. Ni Yang knew Ni Kuihua's concerns and said with a smile, "Don't worry, I was just saying it behind her back. No one will hear. When I got back, I didn't see her. Not just her. Sun Wu wasn't home either." Zhang Suyu had just woken up the second before, and this couple had disappeared right afterward. It was almost impossible not to suspect something. Where did they go? Ni Yang took a sip of milk. "I don't know." Ni Tsuhua shook her head. "Mom, have you noticed anything strange about Zhang Lingling and Dr. Jiang?" Ni Yang continued. "What do you mean?" Ni Tsuhua asked. "Just very strange." Ni Yang finished her last sip of milk, then said, "Mom, let's go visit Grandma." "Okay." Ni Tsuhua nodded. The mother and daughter left the room and headed toward Zhang Suyu's room. Ni Tsuhua reached out to knock on the door. "Aunt Suyu, it's Tingting, may I come in? I'm very tired. Let's talk about it tomorrow." Zhang Suyu's voice came from inside. Ni Tsuhua looked up at Ni Yang. Ni Yang shook her head. "Let's leave it for now." It was too soon to rush things with Zhang Suyu just waking up. The mother and daughter headed downstairs. As they descended, they saw Zhang Lingling and Sun Wu returning home with Zhang Xianjing. Seeing Zhang Xianjing, old lady Zhang exclaimed in surprise, "Xianjing, weren't you supposed to have classes today? Why have you come back now?" "I was fetched by my mom and dad," said Zhang Xianjing. "I heard Grandma woke up, is it true?" This explained why Zhang Lingling and Sun Wu had vanished as soon as Zhang Suyu woke up. Ni Yang's lips curled subtly. This couple still had some brains. No wonder there's a saying in detective studies, those who seem the most normal are often the most abnormal. Chapter 882. Cunning Yang_4. From an outsider's perspective, this family of three had nothing remarkable about them. The husband was honest and unassuming, almost without presence. The wife was adept in socializing and took great care of the elderly. Their daughter was bright and generous, an outstanding student at a well-known university. What could possibly be wrong with such a family? Mrs. Zheng nodded and said with a smile, "It's true." Xianjing said excitedly, "That's wonderful. I'm going to go up and see Great Aunt right now." Having said that, Xianjing rushed upstairs without delay. Not long after, Xianjing came back downcast. Great Aunt said she's very tired and wants to rest some more. Mrs. Zhang smiled and said, "As long as you have this filial heart, it will be the same if you visit your Great Aunt tomorrow." Xianjing nodded. At mealtime, Suyu didn't come down. Mrs. Zhang instructed a servant to take the food up to Suyu. Ni Yang stood up and said, "I'll go." With that, she took the platter from the servant's hand and headed upstairs. Upon reaching Suyu's door, Ni Yang knocked. After a while, Suyu's voice came from inside. "Who is it?" Ni Yang said, "Great Aunt, I've brought you something to eat. I'm coming in." Ni Yang turned the doorknob and entered. Suyu wasn't lying in bed but was sitting at the dressing table. Reflected in the vanity mirror was a face worn with the marks of time. "Great Aunt, it's time to eat." Ni Yang set the dishes on the table. "Grandma says these are all your old favorites. Please come and see if they suit your taste." Suyu turned and walked over. "You're Tingting's child, Yang Yang?" "MHM." Ni Yang nodded. "Yes, it's me." Suyu smiled, her eyes inscrutable with either sorrow or joy. "When I was still lucid, Tingting was just a child. In the blink of an eye, her child is all grown up. It's like a dream." Ni Yang spoke softly. "Malarial vapors rise like fire, and time speeds like a carriage. Decades pass in a flash, and seen from another perspective, life is but a dream." Suyu gave her an astonished look. "Yang Yang, I heard it was you who cured me." Ni Yang didn't deny it but simply nodded. "Thank you," Suyu said, then added, "Have a seat yourself." Ni Yang sat down on the stool. "Great Aunt, There have been many changes outside over the years. How about I take you out for a walk tomorrow? Suyu shook her head. No need. Are you avoiding something? And Yang asked bluntly. Suyu's hand holding the chopsticks paused. After raving mad for so many years, what could I possibly be avoiding? I just don't want to go out, that's all. Like that child. And Yang said in a measured tone. Suyu abruptly put down her chopsticks, her eyes reddening as she said, What are you talking about? And Yang looked at Suyu. Great aunt. Rest assured. I'm not colluding with Dr. Jiang. I'm here to help you. Please tell me what exactly happened 30 years ago. From the current situation, it was clear that Suyu was the only one who knew the truth. I don't know what you're talking about. Suyu picked up her chopsticks again and continued to mechanically feed herself. And Yang continued, Great aunt, is the state you're in now the work of Dr. Jiang and Zheng Lingling? My grandma has been good to them already. Why would they do this? Suyu didn't respond to Yang's words. If you don't answer, I will take it as your agreement. And Yang pressed on. Who is that child? Just give me a little clue, and I'm sure I can uncover the whole truth. Suyu remained silent, like a machine devoid of emotion, just eating. And Yang frowned slightly and decided to use a different tactic. Judging by Suyu's reactions, what she cared about most was that child. Staying silent won't solve anything and might even harm that child. Don't tell me you're willing to watch that child meet with misfortune. From what I understand, neither Zheng Lingling nor Dr. Jiang is known for their compassion. Just then, Suyu hurriedly finished the rice in her bowl, looked up at Yang and said, I don't understand what you're saying. What child? I don't know anything. I need to rest now. Please leave. Great aunt. Are you sure you don't want to say anything? I know that you're starting to recover your memories. There's nothing to say. Suyu pushed Yang towards the door. I don't understand anything you're saying. Chapter 883. Cunning Yang_5. You're gambling with that child's life. And Yang continued. People like Dr. Jiang and Zheng Lingling, they have no credibility. Zhang Suyu pushed Yang outside and, with a thud, closed the door. And Yang didn't say anything more, fearing that the noise here might attract the attention of Zheng Lingling downstairs. Zhang Suyu was far more stubborn than she had imagined. Inside the room, Zhang Suyu leaned against the door and began to weep. In the evening, and Yang knocked on old Madame Zheng's door. Yang. Old Madame Zheng looked at Yang with some surprise. And Yang smiled and said, I've come to bring you and Grandpa some nourishing tea. Old Madame Zheng said, Come in. Your grandpa isn't in the room. Where did Grandpa go? And Yang asked. Old Madame Zheng casually closed the door. He went to talk with your great aunt, to see if she can remember anything. And Yang set the tray down on the table and then said, Grandma, I came over to talk to you about great aunt's situation. Hearing this, old Madame Zheng became very anxious. What's wrong? Is there something the matter with your great aunt? And Yang shook her head. No, don't worry. That's good. Old Madame Zheng sighed in relief. The granddaughter and grandmother sat down on the sofa. Old Madame Zheng took a sip of the nourishing tea and smiled. This tea is good, very refreshing and without a medicinal taste, which I hate the most in teas. Upon finishing, old Madame Zheng continued, Yang, you just mentioned something about your great aunt? And Yang followed up, Great aunt has regained her memory. Old Madame Zheng straightened up in shock. Really? And Yang nodded. She's just afraid to admit it. Old Madame Zheng found this somewhat confusing. Why wouldn't she admit it? Because there's someone in the family threatening her, and Yang said. Old Madame Zheng frowned slightly. Someone in the family threatening her? Who would threaten your great aunt? And Yang didn't hide it and directly said, I suspect it has to do with Dr. Jiang and Auntie. Dr. Jiang? Zheng Lingling? Old Madame Zheng was stunned for a moment. These two people, one had been her close friend for over 30 years, and the other was the daughter she had raised for over 30 years. Yang, how can you say that? And Yang explained the situation with the child to old Madame Zheng. Grandma, I heard it very clearly at the time. It was Dr. Jiang threatening great-aunt, which is why she's afraid to admit she has regained her memory. Child. Old Madame Zheng's brows furrowed deeply. Yang, is it possible you heard wrong? Your great-aunt is still unmarried. How could she have a child? And why would Dr. Jiang threaten your great-aunt? What would their motive be for such actions? For a moment, old Madame Zheng struggled to believe Yang's words. In her view, Zhang Lingling and Dr. Jiang had no motive to do such things. Perhaps Yang had misunderstood. Yang said, because great-aunt knows some unspeakable secrets. Grandma, do you still remember when you and Grandpa were poisoned before? Old Madame Zheng understood the implication of Yang's words. But as you said, it could have also been caused by a reaction between food and medication. She couldn't believe that Zhang Lingling would poison her. Impossible. Zhang Lingling couldn't be that heartless. Over 30 years of mother-daughter affection wasn't fake. In this world, no mother would suspect her own daughter, even if that daughter wasn't her biological child. Grandma, I know you're a very kind person, but your kindness doesn't mean everyone is as kind as you. Yang continued. Some people must be guarded against. Don't you find it strange how you and Grandpa fell ill before? Dr. Jiang is a doctor. It would be too easy for her to do something without making a sound. Old Madame Zheng sighed and followed up. Yang, I know your aunt can be a bit selfish sometimes, but her nature isn't bad. She's just a bit greedy. She's just covetous of the Zheng family's wealth. Actually, when I suspected that your mother was Ting, I had 2 paternity tests done, and one of them was swapped by your aunt. Although old Madame Zheng hadn't spelled it out, she was well aware. At this moment, old Madame Zheng never imagined that the daughter she viewed as only slightly greedy was the one who would plunge the Zheng family into irrecoverable ruin. Chapter 884. Cunning Yang _6. People die for money. Birds die for food. Your aunt feared the Zheng family's estate would all be taken by your mother. I understood this, so I prepared my will early, splitting the Zheng family's estate evenly between your aunt and your mom. Though your aunt is not my biological child, I have never treated her differently. Yang looked up at Grandma Zheng. Grandma, you are a good mother, but she might not be a good daughter. With that, Yang continued. I even suspect that Aunt Suyu's hysteria might be related to them as well. Having said this much, Yang didn't want to keep hiding things from Grandma Zheng. Lest when the truth emerged, Grandma Zheng couldn't accept the reality. That won't be the case. Grandma Zheng shook her head. Yang, you're not a detective, you must be mistaken. Grandma, how about we make a bet? Yang proposed. A bet on what? Grandma Zheng asked. On whether Dr. Jiang and Aunt Suyu are the masterminds behind this. Yang said every word very seriously. Grandma Zheng smiled. Yang, you're really overthinking. I can vouch for my integrity that Dr. Jiang and your aunt aren't those kinds of people. Yang slightly curled her lips. Grandma, the day when everything becomes clear hasn't come yet. It's too early to say that now. Grandma Zheng looked at Yang. Yang, do you know how many years I've known Dr. Jiang? 35 years. Ever since she came back to Beijing across the Pacific Ocean with your aunt, I knew Dr. Jiang is a good person. And your aunt, I raised her myself. I know very well what kind of person she is. She could never do something so utterly heartless. For a full 35 years, Grandma Zheng couldn't believe that human nature could be so malicious. Nor could she believe that she had 2 wolves in sheep's clothing by her side. With that, Grandma Zheng continued. Yang, as you said, Dr. Jiang is a doctor. If she wanted to do something, it would be so easy. If she and Lingling truly wanted to harm me, your grandfather and I wouldn't be alive today. Yang knew that no amount of talking would be useful at this time. Only when ironclad evidence was presented would Grandma Zheng believe it. Grandma, it's getting late. You should rest early. Yang said. I didn't mean anything else by telling you this. Just wanted you to be cautious around Dr. Jiang and Aunt Suyu. And also my aunt's husband, who seems straightforward and honest. yet he has an unknown side to him that people don't see. Otherwise, Sun Wu wouldn't have had such a good marital relationship with Zhang Lingling after so many years. All right, I've got it. Grandma Jing nodded. Yang, they'll take your words to heart. Despite her precautions, Grandma Zhang still couldn't believe that Zhang Lingling and Dr. Jiang were capable of such deeds. Then I'm going to rest now. Aha! Grandma Zhang escorted an Yang to the door. In the deep silence of the night, barely perceptible footsteps echoed through the hallway. Then, a shadow darted into Aunt Suyu's room. Who's there? Hearing noise, Aunt Suyu turned on the bedside lamp and sat up in bed, looking around warily. Aunt Suyu, it's me. Zhang Lingling approached from the side. Seeing who it was, Aunt Suyu shrank back into her bed. Zhang Lingling curled her lips upwards. It seems Aunt Jiang was right. You remembered. No, I haven't. Aunt Suyu shook her head. Zhang Lingling placed the glass bottle on the bedside table. If you want that child to be safe, you'll just have to obey. Let her go. Aunt Suyu looked up at Zhang Lingling. You'll suffer divine retribution for doing this, Zhang Lingling said with a smile. It seems you're unwilling to cooperate? Zhang Suyu suddenly fell silent. Zhang Lingling continued. Divide this into 3 doses and make an Yang drink it. You still want to harm Yang? Zhang Suyu looked incredulously at Zhang Lingling. Zhang Lingling said, Aunt Suyu, rest assured, this is not poison. An Yang will not be in mortal danger. If you're unwilling to cooperate, that poor child might not survive. Please, don't do this. Can't you not do this? Zhang Suyu knelt on the bed, constantly kowtowing to Zhang Lingling. Let her go. That child is too pitiful. I'm begging you. The doctor was right. What did being a talented woman of Beijing count for? She still ended up kneeling, fiercely trampled underfoot. And Yang's future would only be more miserable than Zhang Suyu's. Zhang Lingling stepped back and said, Aunt Suyu, you were once known as a talented woman in Beijing. I really can't accept such a grand gesture from you. With that, Zhang Lingling picked up the glass bottle from the table. Since you're unwilling to cooperate, I won't force you. After all, a twisted melon is not sweet. After speaking, Zhang Lingling turned and walked towards the door. She was gambling on whether Zhang Suyu would let the child go. Wait! Zhang Suyu suddenly ran down from the bed and grabbed Zhang Lingling's sleeve. Zhang Lingling turned to look at Zhang Suyu. Aunt Suyu, do you have something else to say? I agree. Zhang Suyu stammered. I agree. I'll agree to anything. Zhang Lingling bent down to help Zhang Suyu up. Aunt Suyu, a wise man submits to circumstances. You should have agreed earlier. Don't worry, the child is living well now. No one will trouble her. Having dealt with Zhang Suyu, Zhang Lingling felt very refreshed, even still smiling as she left Zhang Suyu's room. When she reached the staircase, Zhang Lingling encountered an Yang. Yang, what are you doing downstairs so late? Zhang Lingling narrowed her eyes. Knowing an Yang was not as simple as she seemed, Zhang Lingling now dared not underestimate her. An Yang's face was full of harmless smiles, highlighted by slight dimples. I went downstairs to get some water. Dinner was too salty tonight. Auntie, are you also going downstairs for water? Zhang Lingling nodded. Yes, I'm also going downstairs for water. It's getting late, you should rest after you drink. An Yang turned and glanced at Zhang Lingling's back, the curve of her lips becoming more pronounced. It seemed Zhang Lingling was not as smart as she thought. But that doctor, who knew how many times craftier he was than Zhang Lingling, now the urgent task was to find that child quickly. Thankfully an Yang and Xiaozhou from the detective agency were particularly familiar. Otherwise, this matter could really be tricky. As soon as Zhang Lingling returned to her room, Sun Wu asked impatiently, How did it go, Lingling? Is everything settled? Chapter 885. Those unknown past events. Zhang Lingling nodded. When did I ever fail to handle something properly? Sun was suspended heart finally settled. That's good. With An Yang dead, nobody else could pose a threat. An Tsuehua wasn't even 1/10 as capable as An Yang. In time, the Zheng family would still belong to the three of them. Sitting at her dressing table and starting to apply cream to her face, Zhang Lingling expressed her concern. Do you think An Yang will find out about this? Sun Wu replied, no way. Didn't Aunt Jiang say that stuff is colorless and odorless? An Yang is no deity. How could she possibly discover it? On the other side, Zhang Suyu sat on the bed, sobbing silently. She held the glass bottle tightly in her hand, her knuckles already turning white. She didn't know what to do. Would she really have to go through with poisoning An Yang? The next day, An Yang made a trip to the detective agency. Xiaozhou and An Yang were old friends by now. Seeing An Yang arrive, Xiaozhou pulled her over and said, Yang, come quick and see what's wrong with my phonograph. Why has it stopped working again? Ever since An Yang had fixed Xiaozi's phonograph the last time, she had become an omnipotent figure in Xiaozi's eyes. An Yang took the black record, fitted it onto the phonograph, bent down and fiddled with it for a while, and then a sweet and pleasant voice poured out from the machine. How sweet! Your smile so very sweet, as if flowers blooming in the spring breeze. This song was sung by Ms. Deng, popular not just in that era, but in future generations as well. Hearing this song, An Yang inexplicably cheered up and began to hum along. Xiaozhou said excitedly, Yang, you're really incredible. You got it to work. An Yang clapped her hands, her face full of smug pride. Otherwise, why would everyone on the street call me Brother Yang? Brother Yang. Xiaozhou clicked his tongue and laughed. I must say, the nickname suits you well. I'm going to start calling you Brother Yang. Xiaozhou liked An Yang a lot, but not in a romantic way. He and An Yang were like brothers. An Yang often gave him a sense of being an elder. Also, An Yang was straightforward and didn't put on airs. Being with her, there was no need to worry about being plotted against, nor any backstabbing. She was quite different from other women. Smiling, An Yang said, I've come here because I need your help with something. Xiaozhou changed the record. I knew it. Brother Yang never comes without a reason. Out with it, what do you need this time? An Yang said, I'd like you to help me look into my great-aunt. Xiaozhou was startled, taking a moment to process. Your great-aunt? Who's that? As he spoke, it seemed like he remembered something and then said, I recall your mother is the daughter from the Zheng family who went missing for many years, right? So by that account, your great-aunt would be the celebrated Beijing beauty from 30 years ago? Zhang Suyu had made a strong impression in Beijing back in the day. Even now, quite a few people still remembered Zhang Suyu. Right? An Yang nodded. My great-aunt is Zhang Suyu. Xiaozhou said, Your great-aunt used to be a great talent. My dad was particularly fond of her. So what about your great-aunt do you want to look into? An Yang said, I want you to help me investigate my great-aunt's past. I want to know what exactly she went through these past 30 years. Upon hearing this, Xiaozhou continued, I've heard that your great-aunt's mental health hasn't been very good for some years, right? Zhang Suyu was indeed a person of influence before, so the Zheng family concealed her mental health issues, claiming she had gone abroad. Thus, aside from those close to the Zheng family, not many people knew of Zhang Suyu's recent state. An Yang didn't conceal the truth. There were indeed some issues before, but she's all right now. It's truly a case of envy of the talented. Your great-aunt used to be a legendary figure, Xiaozhou observed. Then he continued, By the way, Yang, why are you looking into your great-aunt? An Yang trusted Xiaozi's character and started to tell him about the affairs of the Zheng family. Moreover, since Xiaozhou was a detective, the clearer he was about certain matters, the better positioned he would be to investigate. After listening, Xiaozhou shook his head in amazement. Good Lord, your family's situation is way too complicated. I think you'd better get out of that house as soon as possible. An Yang sighed. It's simple for me to leave, but what about my grandparents? You've got a point. Xiaozhou slapped his chest. Yang, leave this matter to me. I guarantee I'll investigate it thoroughly for you. Chapter 886. Those unknown past events. _2. I trust you. And Yang took out 2 stacks of cash from his bag. What are you doing? Xiaozhou said. Down payment. And Yang slightly raised his eyebrows. I can't have you working for nothing. Even brothers settle accounts clearly. And Yang, although having a good relationship with Xiaozhou, never thought of taking advantage of him. Xiaozhou chuckled. You're reminding me of the first time we met. Back then, when he first met Yang, his initial impression of her was of a very gentle beauty, but when it came to paying, she was as straightforward as a man. She paid the 300 yuan deposit without even frowning. Until now, Yang was still very generous. At that time, Xiaozhou could never have imagined that one day he would become good brothers with Yang. Yang looked up and thought for a moment. Thinking about it, we've known each other for over 2 years, right? Xiaozhou nodded and sighed. Time really flies. More than 2 years have passed in the blink of an eye. Yes. Yang also seemed somewhat nostalgic. Time goes by too quickly. Xiaozhou then asked, when do you plan on tying the knot with my brother? At first, Xiaozhou wasn't optimistic about Yang's relationship with Mo Qixin. Unexpectedly, over the past 2 years, instead of fading, their affection had grown even stronger. Yang said, well, get it when it naturally happens, no rush for now. My brother will turn 30 after the new year. Xiaozhou was anxious for Mo Qixin. Their classmates from the same year, many of them had already married and had children. It's like you're not considering me as your brother? Yang patted Zayaz's shoulder. Don't worry, your brother and I isn't the kind of person who abandons a relationship. Xiaozhou scratched his head. But, Yang looked at Xiaozhou. No buts, I remember you're classmates with Mo Qixin, right? Instead of worrying about him, you should worry about yourself. Look at you, still single and without even a girlfriend, and you have the nerve to compare with Mo Qixin? Xiaozhou. That hit a nerve. The melody of Little Town Story wafted through the air. And Yang continued. Where did you buy this old-school phonograph? The sound quality is pretty good. From the second-hand market, Xiaozhou said. If you like, I can keep an eye out for you. Sounds good. Yang nodded. These old record players are perfect for listening to operas. The times were changing, and what people currently revered were radios and televisions, and factories had long since stopped producing these old record players. It was hard to even find a place to buy them. Listening to operas? Which ones? Xiaozhou furrowed his brows slightly. Yang started counting on her fingers. Peking Opera, Yu Opera, Kunku Opera, and the Huangmei Opera from Huizhou, whatever you like. Xiaozhou said speechlessly. Who listens to operas these days? You're living like my mom. The 1980s was a decade where television shows and movies soared in popularity. Only the older generation enjoyed the yaya of traditional opera. Yang said with a smile, different people have different hobbies. By the way, remember to take care of that matter for me, I have to go now. No problem. Xiaozhou saw Yang out to the door. When do you think you'll have it figured out? Yang continued to ask. Xiaozhou thought for a moment and then continued. As long as it happened in Suzhou City, there's nothing I can't find out. I should have some results in about 2 or 3 days. It's just that the overseas stuff is a bit troublesome. Yang nodded. Okay, I got it. Goodbye. Seeing Yang still riding that old bicycle, Xiaozhou said, you've made quite a bit of money. Why are you still riding this beat-up old bike? What beat-up old bike? Yang said, I bought this bike just 2 years ago. It's still new, okay? Yang took good care of things. Her bicycle was almost as good as new. Xiaozhou continued, I think only a small car is worthy of your status. Others might not know about Yang's current wealth, but Xiaozhou was well aware. Yang had many businesses under her, including a noodle restaurant, milk tea shop, skincare shop, and the prestigious restaurant Phoenix, among others. She was the undisputed #1 amongst all women in Suzhou City, and even looking across the whole of China, it was difficult to find a woman on par with Yang. Although the small car is good, Yang said, It doesn't have the deep connection that I have with my little phoenix. Chapter 887. Those unknown past events. _3. From having nothing to having everything, this bicycle had witnessed Yang growth, so she was reluctant to replace it. Little phoenix? Xiaozhou was stunned for a moment. Yang patted the bicycle seat. Yes, this is it. Only then did Xiaozhou realize that it was a Phoenix brand bicycle. After leaving the detective agency, Yang went to the bank, withdrew 30,000 yuan, and then rode to Jinghua village. The cement road in Jinghua village had been finished. Now cars and agricultural vehicles could drive directly into the village, and during rainy days, the villagers no longer had to worry about the muddied mud road. It had been a long time since she last visited Jinghua village, and coming here again, she felt an indescribable sense of closeness. As soon as she arrived at the entrance of the village, someone recognized Yang. Yang is back. Yang quickly jumped off her bicycle. Aunt Wang. Aunt Wang looked behind Yang. Yang, your parents and Yunyun didn't come back with you? No. Yang shook her head. My grandma's place had some issues recently. My parents couldn't come back, and I am here to settle accounts with everyone. I just happened to run into you. Could you please go back and tell everyone to come to my house to settle the accounts? The raw materials for the ice skin jade skin were all selected from the aloe vera, roses, and portulaca grown by the villagers of Jinghua village. So Yang settled accounts with everyone every 6 months. Aunt Wang smiled and said, since you're all busy, don't rush back here. We're not waiting on the money. Yang felt a bit embarrassed. We had originally agreed to settle on the 1st of July and the 1st of January, and it's already been over 10 days late. Aunt Wang, I'll head back first. Please have everyone bring their account books to my house. Aunt Wang nodded. Although Yang and Cuihua had moved to the Zheng family, Chengui still lived here. Chengui was a diligent man. He not only kept his own yard spotlessly clean, but also took great care of Yang's yard. Thus, Yang didn't need to clean up anything upon her return. After a while, there was some noise outside the door. Yang opened the courtyard gate, and it was Grandma Wu. Grandma Wu, please come in. Yang, you haven't eaten yet. Have you? Here are some red plums that aren't sour at all. Try them. I've also made a few meat biscuits for you. They're still warm. Grandma Wu's family used to be very poor, often unable to afford a full meal. But ever since Yang arrived in Jinghua village, their lives had gradually improved. Hearing that Yang had returned, Grandma Wu, without a second thought, picked the last few red plums from the tree and hurriedly made some meat biscuits, fearing that Yang would be hungry. The red plums were what Grandma Wu had reluctantly saved for her grandson, who was studying away from home. Now that Yang was back, everything, including her own grandson, had to step aside. Thank you, Grandma Wu. Yang didn't bother to check if the plums were washed. She just picked one up and took a bite. Grandma Wu cheerfully said, You child, why be so formal with Grandma Wu? Are the plums sweet? Sweet, very sweet. After a while, more and more people gathered in the small courtyard. Everyone was just like Grandma Wu, afraid that Yang might be hungry. One brought dough twists, another brought duck soup. When everyone had arrived, Yang began to settle the accounts. Uncle Lin, your family earned a total of 580 yuan for the first half of the year. See if that's correct. Yang handed Uncle Lin 580 yuan. Uncle Lin chuckled. No need to count. Yang, I trust you. Aunt Zhao, your family's is 526 yuan. Grandma Wu, your family's is 600 yuan. Holding the hefty stacks of cash, everyone was very happy. In the past, when they were still planting rice after paying their taxes, they could barely earn 100 yuan a year, but now they could make 500 to 600 yuan in just half a year, and of that 500 to 600 yuan, they only needed to pay about 10 yuan for taxes. How could they not be happy? Jinghua village had exactly 50 households. After distributing money to everyone, the 30,000 yuan Yang withdrew was left with just over 100 yuan. After finishing the accounts, Yang took a stroll through the factory at the back. Though she hadn't been in Jinghua village in these days, the factory had been still operating, having grown from a dozen people to now over 20. Once she confirmed everything was in order, and Yang took some grain and oils and other daily necessities over to Grandma Liu's house. Chapter 888. Those Unknown Past Events. _4. Grandma Liu was old, bound by bound feet, and had no descendants. Even buying simple things was a struggle for her, so Yang would regularly deliver staples like grain and oil to her. Grandma Liu was often bored at home alone, but she became overjoyed when she saw Yang. She immediately brought out the best things she had at home to entertain her. Yang had dinner at Grandma Liu's before cycling back to the Zheng family's home. The day passed, and Zheng Suyu's spirits seemed to have lifted. The elderly Madame Zheng sat on the sofa, chatting with her. Zheng Lingling, Sun Wu, and Zheng Xianjing, a family of 3, occupied the opposite couch. Suyu, how about I go out with you tomorrow for a walk? Zheng Suyu shook her head. I don't want to go out. It wasn't that she didn't want to go out, but that she didn't dare to. Before Lingling had said anything, Suyu didn't dare to step outside. It's not good to always be cooped up at home, continued the elderly Madame Zheng. You've been sick for so many years. Aren't you curious about what the outside has become? Zheng Suyu lifted her cup and took a sip of tea, remaining silent. Her eyes, which were not yet muddled, were filled with sorrow. Zheng Lingling nudged Zheng Xianjing with her elbow. Zheng Xianjing immediately understood and said with a smile, Auntie, let my mother and me accompany you for a stroll tomorrow. Shall we? Is that okay? Zheng Suyu looked up at Zheng Lingling. Zheng Lingling said, Aunt Suyu, it's rare for Xianjing to show such filial piety. Please indulge her this once. The elderly Madame Zheng added, Suyu, Xianjing is a particularly filial child. Knowing you had regained consciousness, she hurried back from school last night. Don't let her heartfelt effort go unnoticed. Auntie, where are you all planning to go for fun? Take me with you, please? Yang entered from outside. Zheng Lingling glanced subtly at Zheng Suyu. Zheng Suyu immediately said, I don't want to go out these days. When I feel like going out, I'll call you to join us. It's more lively with more people. Okay. Yang nodded. The elderly Madame Zheng looked at Yang, continuing, Yang, where have you been? You've come back so late. Yang said, I went back to the village for a bit. Hearing this, Zheng Xianjing cast a disdainful glance at Yang, filled with scorn. Rural folk will always be rural folk. Always talking about going back to the village. Even if you dress her in a dragon robe, she doesn't look like a city person. The elderly Madame Zheng nodded. You've been out for quite a time. It's indeed time to check back. How is everything over there? All good? Yang responded with a smile. Don't worry, everything's fine. That's good to hear. Auntie Suyu, have an orange? Zheng Lingling peeled an orange and handed it to Zheng Suyu, passing her a meaningful glance. Zheng Suyu accepted the orange. Thank you, Lingling. Zheng Lingling's face was filled with a smile. Aunt Suyu, you were the person I admired the most when I was little. Why be so formal with me? I remember oranges were your favorite back then. It's kind of Lingling to remember your preferences, the elderly Madame Zheng said with a laugh. With the words Yang had spoken earlier, the elderly Madame Zheng paid special attention to Zheng Lingling that day. Upon her observation, she didn't find anything unusual about Lingling. She was even particularly kind to Zheng Suyu. Such a filial child ought not to be capable of doing such a thing. Yang must have been overthinking it. After eating half the orange, Zheng Suyu looked up at Yang. Yang, I suddenly feel a bit unwell. Can you accompany me upstairs to check? As soon as Zheng Suyu mentioned feeling unwell, the elderly Madame Zheng grew anxious. Suyu, where do you feel uncomfortable? Is it very painful? Zheng Suyu shook her head. It shouldn't be anything serious. Just let Yang take a look. Yang nodded and put down her cup. Then, I'll accompany you to check. All right. Yang supported Zheng Suyu and they walked upstairs. Upon arriving in Zhang Suyu's room, Yang asked, "Auntie, where do you feel uncomfortable?" Zhang Suyu's complexion was pale, and her gaze somewhat elusive. I have a bit of a headache. Stretch out your hand. They'll take your pulse for you," Yang offered. "Okay." Zhang Suyu hesitated and then extended her wrist. Yang placed her hand on Zhang Suyu's wrist, focusing as she felt for the pulse. It was clear. Zhang Suyu was feigning illness. But Yang didn't expose her and instead said, "Auntie, it's normal to have some headache after a major illness. A good sleep should fix it. If it becomes unbearable, though, I can also prescribe you some painkillers." Chapter 889. Those Unknown Past Events. _5. No need. Fearing that Yang might discover something, Zhang Suyu quickly withdrew her wrist. Yang continued, "Granny, do you remember anything now?" "Nothing." Zhang Suyu shook her head. Yang said, "Granny, since I have the ability to restore you to normal, I also have the ability to save that child. Don't you trust me?" Zhang Suyu shook her head again. "I don't understand what you're talking about. It wasn't a matter of mistrust. It was a fear to trust." How old was Yang? She was only 19. Who were Zheng Lingling and Dr. Jiang? Could a young girl like Yang really outwit Zheng Lingling and Dr. Jiang? Yang let out a soft sigh. "Granny, do you think you'll regret your decision today in the future?" Zhang Suyu didn't speak. There was a moment of silence. Then Zhang Suyu continued, Yang, you must be thirsty, right? I'll go get you some water to drink." "Thank you, Granny." Yang nodded. Since Zhang Suyu was unwilling to cooperate with her, then she would have to accommodate Zhang Suyu. Zhang Suyu went to the table to pour water, perhaps not even realizing herself that her hand was shaking the whole time. She didn't want it to be this way, but she had no choice. Zhang Lingling had said, it wasn't poison, and it wouldn't endanger Yang's life. Yang, drink this water." Zhang Suyu handed the glass to Yang. Yang took the glass. "Thank you, Granny." As the words fell, she pretended she was about to drink the water. Zhang Suyu was startled and hurriedly said, "Wait a moment. What's the matter, Granny?" Yang looked up at Zhang Suyu. Zhang Suyu swallowed hard. Her eyes and eyebrows filled with unease. She had never done anything to afflict her conscience in her life. Yet now, but if she didn't do it, that child wouldn't be saved. Zhang Suyu swallowed hard again and then said, "It's nothing. I just wanted to remind you. The water is very hot. Drink slowly." Yang took a sip and then said, "It's not hot." Zhang Suyu watched as Yang drank the entire cup of water, wanting to stop her several times, but unable to open her mouth. After finishing the water, Yang yawned. "It's so strange. Why am I so sleepy tonight? Granny, I won't disturb you any longer. I'm going to rest." "Okay." Zhang Suyu stood up to see Yang out. After seeing Yang off, Zhang Suyu breathed a sigh of relief. Zhang Xianjing and Zhang Lingling stood at the railing upstairs on the opposite building, watching Yang come out of Zhang Suyu's room, and curiously said, "Mom, do you think that crazy woman succeeded?" Zhang Lingling watched Yang, who kept yawning, and said, "She definitely succeeded." Your Grandma Zhang said, "After taking this medicine, the most obvious reaction is feeling sleepy and yawning." Zhang Xianjing's mouth curled into a smug arc. "This is perfect. No more having to see that wretched woman." Zhang Lingling patted Zhang Xianjing's hand. "I've always told you, rural bumpkins like Yang are only fit to carry your shoes." What was Yang? In front of Zhang Xianjing, Yang wasn't even worth as much as a mud ball. Zhang Xianjing continued, "Mom, why didn't you just kill that little wench Yun as well? It's so annoying to see that little wench." Zhang Xianjing's detest for little Yun was no less than her detest for Yang. Every time she saw little Yun, she was reminded of her own childhood. Back then, the old Master Zhang wouldn't even spare her a glance. She thought it was because the old Master Zhang didn't like children. But now, The old master Zhang couldn't wait to hold little Ni Yun in the palm of his hand. What did this mean? Every time she saw this scene, Zhang Xianjing was consumed by jealousy. Zhang Lingling looked at Zhang Xianjing and said, "It's a pity your grandma Jiang has always praised you for being intelligent. How did you become so foolish this time? And Ayun is only 2 years old this year. What threat could she pose? Our biggest enemy right now is Ni Yang. As long as we deal with Ni Yang, are you afraid we can't handle that little wretch?" Zhang Xianjing said, "Anyway, dealing with one is dealing. Dealing with two is also dealing. Might as well take care of them both at once. To take care of two at once, the target is too big. It would easily attract police attention." Zhang Lingling poked Zhang Xianjing's forehead. "You child, why don't you think about the consequences of your actions? You can't be so impulsive in the future." "I know." Zhang Xianjing nodded and then asked, "Mom, when will Ni Yang die?" She couldn't wait to take care of Ni Yang's body. Zhang Lingling replied, "Your grandma Jiang said, this substance requires 3 doses to be lethal. Today was the first time. There are still 2 more to go." Chapter 890. Those Unknown Past Events. _6. When will I have to wait until? Zhang Xianjing was getting impatient. "Don't rush," Zhang Lingling soothed. "Big things cannot be rushed." Zhang Xianjing narrowed her eyes and continued. "Once Ni Yang dies, her things will all be mine. By the way, Mom, do you know how rich Ni Yang is now?" "What do you mean?" Zhang Lingling turned to look at Zhang Xianjing. Zhang Xianjing continued, "You know about Ice Skin Jade Beauty, right?" Zhang Lingling nodded. "Now, who doesn't know about Ice Skin Jade Beauty?" Zhang Xianjing said, "Ice Skin Jade Beauty belongs to Ni Yang." "Really?" Zhang Lingling exclaimed in surprise. "Really?" Zhang Xianjing continued, "I just found out about this a few days ago." A few days ago, Zhang Xianjing and her classmates went to Ice Skin Jade Beauty to shop and overheard Ni Yang talking to employees. Only then did they discover that Ice Skin Jade Beauty was Ni Yang's. At that moment, Zhang Xianjing was shocked. Why would Ni Yang own Ice Skin Jade Beauty? Ni Yang was just a country bumpkin. How could she have established Ice Skin Jade Beauty? It was obvious that Ice Skin Jade Beauty must be a property of the Zhang family. It must have been secretly given to Ni Yang by Old Master Zhang and Old Madam Zhang. It was just too unfair. Zhang Lingling and Zhang Xianjing shared the same thought. Even if Ni Yang was impressive, she was just a 19-year-old girl. How could she possibly have established Ice Skin Jade Beauty? If Ni Yang were really that capable, she wouldn't care about the Zhang family's wealth. Ice Skin Jade Beauty must have been a gift from Old Master Zhang and Old Madam Zhang to Ni Yang. These 2 old fools are just too biased. Who knows how many good things they secretly gave to Ni Yang, and yet they put on a righteous front, claiming they are not biased. If this wasn't considered biased, then what would be? Zhang Lingling was furious. Zhang Xianjing comforted her. "Mom, don't be angry. After all, Ni Yang won't live much longer. Whatever should be ours will still be ours." Zhang Lingling nodded. "That little bitch deserves to die." Weary from yawning, Ni Yang returned to her room and immediately after closing the door, her expression turned cold and sharp. Zhang Suyu's reaction was beyond her expectations. It seemed that the child was very important to Zhang Suyu. While thinking about this, Ni Yang picked up a gold needle and pricked it onto an acupoint on her wrist. Soon, beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. Afterward, Ni Yang took a bath with rose petals. Once she finished bathing, Ni Yang sat at her desk to write a letter to Mo Qishan, who was far away. The writing paper at that time was very dull, so Ni Yang sketched the light shadow of a plum tree with a fountain pen. The letter was brief but emotive. She filled 2 pages but felt she hadn't written anything substantial. The next day, for a change, Ni Yang slept in. She normally woke up at 7 o'clock but did not get up until 8:30 that morning. After 9 o'clock, Ni Yang came downstairs, yawning. Zhang Lingling asked with concern, Yang, why did you get up so late this morning?" While yawning, Ni Yang replied, I don't know what happened last night. I fell asleep as soon as I hit the bed, but I just couldn't get up this morning. It was very uncomfortable. Zhang Lingling followed up, Yang Yang, do you want to go to the hospital and have it checked? And I Yang gestured with a wave of her hand. No need. I am a doctor myself. I know my own body. A sarcastic gleam appeared in Zhang Lingling's eyes upon hearing those words. And I Yang was indeed intelligent, but she was overly confident. She thought herself clever, unaware that overcleverness could lead to mistakes. That night, Zhang Suyu, again complaining of feeling unwell, had an I Yang come to her room. This time, Zhang Suyu poured an I Yang a cup of clear tea. An I Yang, as usual, drank every last drop. Zhang Suyu looked at an I Yang, wanting to speak but eventually said very little. The next morning, an I Yang, who normally didn't wear makeup, sat in front of the vanity, dabbing and smearing. Soon after, an I Yang appeared in the dining room, her face pale. Old Master Zhang was startled. Yang Yang, why do you look so terrible? An I Yang touched her face unconsciously. I probably haven't slept well these past few days. Don't worry about it, Grandpa. Toi Hua also noticed something off with an I Yang. Yang Yang, do you want your master to check on you? No need, an I Yang said with a smile. I'm a doctor myself, Mom, Grandma. You don't have to worry. Shangguan Dehui put down his chopsticks. There's a saying, a doctor who treats himself has a fool for a patient. Yang Yang, I think you should let your master take a look. It's really nothing. And I Yang waved her hands. Grandma Zhang said worriedly, Yang Yang, do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? If you don't want to visit your master, we can ask Dr. Jiang to come over and check on you. Looking at the room full of people concerned for an I Yang, Zhang Xianjing wished she could smash the vegetables in her bowl. She would let this despicable woman be pleased for a bit longer since she was soon to meet the king of hell. And I Yang helplessly said, Grandpa, Grandma, Dad, Mom, I'm really fine. You don't need to be so worried. After the meal, leaving the Zhang family, an I Yang took the letter she had written the night before and mailed it at the post office. Leaving the post office, an I Yang made a trip to the detective agency. Xiao Zhou was extremely efficient. In just 3 days, he had thoroughly gathered the past of Zhang Suyu, and I Yang benefited greatly from this trip. Thank you so much. Xiao Zhou raised his hand. If we're brothers, then don't mention it. But speaking of which, your grandmother really surprised me. I hadn't expected that she... And I Yang tucked the information into her bag and sighed. She's also a pitiable person. How come you look so pale? Xiao Zhou just then noticed that something was off with an I Yang's face. And I Yang nonchalantly replied, It's a minor issue. It'll be fine in a few days. Leaving the detective agency, remembering Mo Kishin's request, and I Yang then went to see Master Du. Unusually, Master Du wasn't chanting in the Buddha hall today. When N.I. Yang arrived, Master Du was sitting in the study room, holding black and white pieces, playing against himself. Even more amazing was that the black and white pieces were evenly matched, unable to determine a winner. N.I. Yang didn't disturb him, but instead wandered around the study, planning to pick a book to read. While searching for a book, N.I. Yang unexpectedly discovered that Master Du had a habit of collecting newspapers, from 50 years ago to this morning's issue, and all of them were about murder cases. N.I. Yang wasn't interested in murder cases, but her eyes caught a line of text, and she pulled out that newspaper. Suzhou City Evening News. Yesterday morning, an unidentified infant girl's body was found on the riverbank near the ferry crossing. Chapter 891. She died. The newspaper date was from a summer 25 years ago, August 9th. At that time, newspapers were still black and white because there was no PS mosaic technology, so one could clearly see the infant girl's features and clothes. The infant girl even wore 2 golden bracelets. From this, it could be deduced that the infant came from a wealthy family. N.I. Yang slightly furrowed her brows, folded up the newspaper, and looked back at Du. Brother Du, may I borrow this newspaper for a moment? Du didn't directly answer N.I. Yang's request but said instead, Come here for a moment. and Yang walked over. Du looked down at the chess game, which had reached a deadlock, his brow furrowed deeply. What do you think the black piece should do next? On the chessboard, the black and white pieces were equally matched, each not willing to concede a step, clearly having reached a mutually destructive scenario. Du was truly a mystical person, playing against himself and still managing to create such a situation. And Yang leaned slightly forward, a strand of black hair slipping from beside her ear. Her pale fingertips picked up a sparkling, translucent black piece, obsidian shining under the light, accentuating her already fair fingertips, at that moment resembling top-grade mutton fat jade, as she placed the piece in the center of the board. Just one move, the situation on the board shifted instantly, finding new hope when all seemed lost. A flash of surprise flickered in Du's eyes. Then he raised his hand and placed a white piece. What had been a hopeful situation reversed in an instant. Life was like chess, and chess mirrored life. And Yang lightly curled her lips, casually picking up a black piece and gently tapping it onto the board. Click. The sound of the obsidian piece falling onto the jade chessboard was particularly pleasant. You've lost. And Yang lightly lifted her gaze. Du sighed. Yes, I've lost. He had pondered over the game for a long time, thinking it unsolvable, yet Yang resolved it with merely 2 pieces. It was uncertain whether he was too foolish, or if Yang was too clever. This is what they call the observer sees clearer. By the way, may I borrow this newspaper for a few days? Yang lifted the newspaper in her hand. Du had asked what she needed it for, then slightly nodded. Take it. Thank you. Yang continued. Believing in Buddhism, chanting scriptures, raising birds, collecting newspapers, Brother Du, your hobbies are quite extensive. Overpraised. Du replied in a tone lacking emotion. As he spoke, Du continued. By the way, ever since that time, your duo has almost come here every day. Really? Yang was somewhat surprised. She had thought that the experience had left a profound shadow in Duo's heart, and that Duo would never come here again. After all, even though Duo was a bird, it held grudges even better than humans. Du nodded. The weather's nice outside today, not too hot, and there's a breeze. Would you like to go out for a walk? When Yang arrived, she heard from the butler that Du hadn't left his house in several days. Du lifted his head and glanced outside. Then let's stroll in the garden. Yang tucked the newspaper into her bag. Sounds good. The 2 of them walked out one after the other. At this season, the garden was bursting with flowers, the gentle breeze carrying wafts of floral scent, making for a refreshing walk among the blooming flowers. After a round, Yang felt something was missing. Where's Sister Jiao Jiao? Usually, when she visited Deming Xian, Du Jiao Jiao would always be present. She might be in her room, Du suggested. At the same time, the assistant following Du quietly slipped away. Oh! Yang nodded slightly. Just then, a black shadow flew over from a distance. Yang. Yang looked up and smiled. Duo. Yang. Duo flew straight to Yang's shoulder, rubbing its small head against her chin. After throwing a small tantrum, Duo looked at Du. You little bastard. Yang gently tapped Duo's head. Duo, you can't be so rude. You little bastard. Yang slightly furrowed her brows. Son, if you continue being rude like this, Mum won't give you treats anymore. You little bastard. Yang slightly squinted her eyes, furiously glaring. Say it again. You little bastard. You're getting bold. Yang poked Duo's small head sternly. Try saying it again. You little bastard. Yang was infuriated. Du glanced sideways at Yang, a faint smile playing on his lips. It's just a bird. Why bother stooping to its level? Yang, feeling somewhat embarrassed, said, It comes here every day. Surely it isn't just to curse at you? I swear, I didn't teach it anything. Chapter 892. She died. _2. Duo is, after all, her bird. It would be so embarrassing if Master Du thought, like Mo Baichuan, that Shed used it to deliberately attract his attention. Liege is the most human-like and vindictive among birds, said Master Du, his expression indifferent, not taking the matter to heart at all. Hearing this, Yang breathed a sigh of relief. People really are different. Duo seemed to understand Master Du's words, glaring with a pair of shiny, black eyes, and fiercely said, "You little bastard! Shut up!" Yang smacked Duo lightly. "You're not allowed to talk like that anymore." Duo flew onto Master Du's shoulder. "You little bastard." Master Du wasn't angry. Instead, he casually pinched a green caterpillar and handed it to Duo across an artificial lake. The butler, accompanied by a young man, was walking over. Seeing this scene, the young man exclaimed in surprise, Is that really Master Du feeding the bird?" At the moment the liege made its outrageous remarks, he thought Master Du would crush it. Unexpectedly, Master Du fed the liege a caterpillar with a gentle look in his eyes. It was hard to believe that this was the same Master Du, ruthless and unfeeling, who wouldn't even spare his own brothers. When had he ever shown such tenderness? It's just too unbelievable. Could it be that he was hallucinating? The butler nodded. "You're not seeing things." The young man went on to ask, "Who is that young lady?" "She is Mr. Peiji's girlfriend, Miss Ni," the butler answered. The young man nodded and asked uncertainly, "Butler, did the liege just call Master Du a little bastard?" The butler calmly nodded. "You heard correctly." The young man swallowed hard. "Whose bird is that, liege?" "Miss Nis," said the butler. The young man stealthily pinched the inside of his thigh. Ouch! It really hurt. He wasn't dreaming. The young man hurriedly stopped and said, "Butler Lin, I suddenly remembered I have some matters to deal with. I'll visit Master Du another day." After speaking, he left as though fleeing. He didn't dare to provoke Master Du at this time. Butler Lin watched the young man's retreating figure, shrugged helplessly. The sun was getting bigger and hotter. Standing under the shade of trees, Master Du played with the bird in the cage, while Yang sat at the stone table under the pavilion, eating sunflower seeds. A breeze blew over the artificial lake, causing the lotus flowers and leaves to sway left and right. The beautiful koi fish swam underneath the leaves. Squinting at the artificial lake, Yang's long lashes cast a light shadow on her eyelids. As if thinking of something, a faint smile played on her lips. Just then, Du Jiao came running from a distance. "Yang, Sister Jiao." Yang stood up and waved to Du Jiao. Du Jiao ran over and sat on the stone bench, gulping down the tea on the table. "Oh my God! It's so hot it could kill a person." Yang picked up a fan and fanned her. "Actually, today's temperature isn't that high, the highest being only 30 degrees. Because you ran over Sister Jiao, you feel much hotter." Du Jiao said, 30 degrees isn't high? In our Shanghai, even the hottest days don't reach 30 degrees. In later years, due to exhaust pollution, global warming, and ice melting, there wasn't much temperature difference between Shanghai and Beijing, and summer would be like a furnace. But now it was the 1980s. The 1980s were a pure era, one with clear-cut seasons and no pollution. In the 1980s, summers in Shanghai weren't hot at all. The hottest days could be dealt with just a fan. It wasn't like in the future, where stepping out of air-conditioned rooms felt like losing half your life. Yang smiled and said, "I think it's all right. Sister Jiao, you haven't been to tropical regions yet. If you went there, you'd definitely question life." Du Jiao loved to travel, but she only visited developed countries and had never been to tropical regions. "I heard that summers in F continent are the hottest, especially in the Sahara Desert where temperatures can reach over 50 degrees. I don't know how people there survive," Du Jiao said, fanning herself with one hand while pouring tea with the other. "Anyway, I couldn't stand it." Then Du Jiao added, Yang, why did you come alone? Where's Peiji?" "Peiji?" Yang was momentarily stunned before she realized that Du Jiao was referring to Mo Chishan. "He went to F country," Yang said. Du Jiao sighed. He really is a busy man, always flying around. Yang Yang, how can you stand it? And I Yang smiled and said, distance makes the heart grow fonder. Chapter 893. She died. _3. Du Jiao Jiao nodded in agreement. Yeah, Yang Yang, you're right. Distance creates beauty. Yang Yang, you're incredible, spouting wisdom extemporaneously. And I Yang continued, I didn't come up with this saying. I heard it from someone else. The phrase, distance creates beauty, is popular in later generations and doesn't have a specific source. It's a famous proposition in aesthetics. Although she didn't have a specific source, and I Yang didn't want to claim the saying as her own. If she did, she wouldn't be any different from the Li Xianxian of the past. Du Jiao Jiao scratched her head. But I've never heard anyone else say it before. And I Yang added, out of sight, out of mind, isn't that how the saying goes? I just happen to have a good memory and have kept it in mind till now. Du Jiao Jiao nodded. Whoever came up with that saying must be impressive. I think so too, and I Yang agreed. Du Jiao Jiao still felt hot and turned to look at the artificial lake filled with lotus flowers. She said, Yang Yang, let's go down and pick some lotus seeds. They're really sweet right now. They could also cool off under the lotus leaves. The artificial lake was quite large but not very deep, with the deepest part just a little above the knees. And I Yang looked at the artificial lake and then at the several wild ducks under the lotus leaves. There are leeches in this mud, right? And I Yang wasn't afraid of snakes or mice, but she had a fear of sticky leeches and slugs. Back in Dam Village, she often went into the fields to plant rice and would always wear long rain boots or leg wraps soaked in salt water to repel the leeches, which hate salt. Now, just the thought of that scene made an I Yang's skin crawl. After hesitating, an I Yang said, I don't want to go down, Sister Jiao Jiao. They'll just watch you from here. Du Yi, who was nearby, raised an eyebrow slightly. I'm surprised there's something you're afraid of. To this day, Du Yi couldn't forget the sight of an I Yang swallowing a snake gall. Even thinking about it now made his stomach churn. An I Yang raised an eyebrow too. Everyone has their weaknesses. Du Jiao Jiao pointed at Du Yi. He doesn't have any weaknesses. And I Yang followed up. Then you should ask him if he dares to swallow a snake gall raw. Du Yi? Du Jiao Jiao incredulously said, You can swallow a snake gall raw? And I Yang nodded. Snake gallbladder is a precious thing. Sister Jiao Jiao, don't you want to go down to the lake? Go ahead. I'll wait here for you. Remember to pick lots of lotus seeds. Let's go together, Du Jiao Jiao said, tugging at an I Yang's arm. Don't worry, we're not going directly into the water. We'll go by boat. On hearing there was a boat, an I Yang reluctantly agreed. Du Jiao Jiao had the servants fetch someone who could row a boat. Then she stood at the bow and looked back at Du Yi. Third brother, do you want to come down with us? Du Yi shook his head. I'll pass on this excitement. Boring. Du Jiao Jiao rolled her eyes at Du Yi. Then she turned to an I Yang. Let's go, Yang Yang. The lotus flowers in the lake weren't dense, and a small boat could just make its way through. The lotus leaves were tall, and after a while, the small boat disappeared into the endless green where the lotus leaves reached the sky. It was indeed not hot among the lotus leaves. And I Yang and Du Jiao Jiao not only picked many lotus flowers and pods, but also spotted a nest of wild duck eggs, which they left untouched. Before long, the servants returned with the boat laden with their harvest. While picking lotus pods, an I Yang accidentally got her shoes wet. Thankfully, it was summer, so she took off her shoes, rolled up her trouser legs a bit below the knees, revealing a stretch of fair and lovely calves that stood out strikingly amid the green lotus leaves. She was now very glad she hadn't worn a cheongsam today. Otherwise, it would have been awkward. Seeing an I Yang taking off her shoes to wash her feet at the bow, Du Jiao Jiao also sat down and took off her shoes. Shielded by the lotus leaves and with the lake water cool and refreshing, it was extremely comfortable. Du Jiao Jiao sighed. This is so comfortable. Hey, race a lotus seed for you. and Aiyang handed a peeled lotus seed to Du Jiaojiao. Thank you. Du Jiaojiao expressed her gratitude. The fresh lotus seeds were very sweet but not heavy, quite refreshing. So delicious. And Aiyang nodded. Indeed they are. There's always a lot to talk about when two young girls get together. Although Du Jiaojiao was already in her 30s this year, her spirit remained youthful. Feeling hot, Du Jiaojiao had the servants row the boat around the lake several times before heading back. Before going ashore, and Aiyang put on her shoes and let down her trouser legs. Chapter 894. She died. _4. She held a large bundle of lotus flowers and pods, standing at the bow of the boat, just like a lotus fairy stepping out of a painting, gracefully poised. Once ashore, Aiyang and Du Jiaojiao sat together eating lotus seeds for a while before Aiyang proposed saying goodbye. Brother Du, Sister Jiaojiao, I have to leave now, Aiyang said, then turned to Grandpa Du. You should come out more when you're free. Getting more sunlight not only reduces the chance of catching a cold and boosts immunity, but also protects vascular health. Okay. Grandpa Du nodded. Duo, I'm heading back. Aiyang waved at Duo. Duo jumped onto the other shoulder of Grandpa Du, unwilling to leave. Duo, Aiyang called again. Duo still didn't want to leave. Grandpa Du laughed. You go ahead. It's missing the treats I have here. These days, Grandpa Du had provided countless treats for Duo, but Duo was a typical ungrateful wretch. Right after eating Grandpa Du's food, it would curse him as a little bastard. With Duo refusing to accompany her, Aiyang had to go back alone. Yang, wait a moment. Du Jiaojiao grabbed a handful of lotus flowers and pods and chased after Aiyang. What is it, Sister Jiaojiao? Aiyang turned around. Du Jiaojiao stuffed the lotus flowers and pods into Aiyang's hands. Take these. Thank you. What are you thanking me for? You picked them yourself. I'm just presenting Buddha with borrowed flowers. Du Jiaojiao smiled. Sister Jiaojiao, then he'll leave first. Aiyang shook the lotus flowers and pods in her hand. Okay. Du Jiaojiao waved to her. Watching Aiyang's retreating figure, Du Jiaojiao sighed. Ah, to be young is wonderful. Grandpa Du glanced at Du Jiaojiao. You are not old either. I'm already 36. Du Jiaojiao shot Grandpa Du a look. Then, Du Jiaojiao added, I feel something was off with Yang today. Did you see? Her face was quite pale, but thankfully, she seemed to be in good spirits. I didn't notice, Grandpa Du said whilst feeding a worm to Duo. Du Jiaojiao looked at Grandpa Du, then asked, What do you think about Yang? She's fine, Grandpa Du replied indifferently. And do you think she's pretty? Grandpa Du kept his expression neutral, nodding slightly. Du Jiaojiao narrowed her eyes. Do you have a crush on Aiyang? Grandpa Du fed another worm to Duo. Older sister, you are already 36 this year. Can't you stop making me feel like you're only 6? You're 6. Du Jiaojiao fluffed up like an angry rooster. Your whole family is 6. Grandpa Du laughed. That includes you too. Du Jiaojiao was momentarily speechless. Then she said, I read a book today that said every person experiences emotions and youthful infatuations. With someone as outstanding as Yang, I really want to know what kind of fairy you would fall for. She was really curious about what kind of person Grandpa Du would marry in the future. It's regrettable, but you probably won't see it in this lifetime, Grandpa Du said calmly. Du Jiaojiao continued, Yang is so pretty. If I were a man, I would definitely like her without hesitation. Grandpa Du looked at Du Jiaojiao. Aiyang is Peiji's girlfriend. I advise you to drop that idea. A friend's wife should not be coveted. Du Jiaojiao shrugged. I'm speaking hypothetically. I'm not a man. If I were, I would certainly act decisively. Maybe in your next life. Grandpa Du looked at Du Jiaojiao, his expression serious yet gentle. You might have a chance then. Du Jiaojiao helplessly shook her head. It's so boring to talk with someone like you. I'm going back to my room now. After leaving Grandpa Du, Ni Yang went to see Xiao Zhou. Xiao Zhou, surprised, took the newspaper and asked, "Where did you find such an antique? This is a 25-year-old newspaper. Even Xiao Zhou, being a detective, might not be able to find one." Ni Yang said, "I have a friend who likes collecting newspapers. Can you please help me check something?" "Sure." Xiao Zhou nodded. "No problem." When she returned to the Zheng family's home, it was already past 6 in the evening. Today being Monday, Ni Cuihua and Shangguan Dehui were sitting in the living room with little Ni Yun, chatting with Zheng Suyu. 3 days had passed, and Zheng Suyu seemed to have improved quite a bit. Chapter 895. She died. _5. Moreover, she was very fond of little Ni Yun. She always held little Ni Yun in her arms. "Little Yun Yun, do you want to eat an orange?" "No." Little Ni Yun shook her head. "Aunt Granny, I want to eat candy. Red strawberry candy." "Okay." Zhang Suyu smiled and said, "Aunt Granny will peel it for you." Little Ni Yun, like all children, was addicted to sugar, resulting in some bad teeth. She was trying to quit sugar recently. Just as Ni Cuihua was about to stop her, Shangguan Dehui raised his hand to press down Ni Cuihua's hand, whispering, "Aunt Suyu loves children too. One little piece of candy won't hurt. Later tonight, let her brush her teeth." "Okay then." Ni Cuihua nodded her head. Seeing that her parents had no reaction, little Ni Yun boldly said, "Aunt Granny, I want one more candy." "Sure." Zhang Suyu said with a beaming smile. "Our little Yun Yun can have as much candy as she wants." "Aunt Granny, you are so nice." Little Ni Yun kissed Zhang Suyu, then asked, "Aunt Granny, will you take me to the street tomorrow to buy candied hawthorn, please?" Just then, a soft voice rang out nearby. "How about I make you a stir-fried bamboo shoots with shredded pork right now?" Little Ni Yun was startled and quickly said, "Sister is back." "Sister, I was just joking with Aunt Granny. I don't like candied hawthorn at all. They are spicy. Not tasty. Not tasty at all." The person who spoke was indeed Ni Yang, and although Ni Yang usually liked little Ni Yun very much, whenever little Ni Yun made a mistake, Ni Yang would not hesitate to scold her. Little Ni Yun's favorite person was Ni Yang, but also the person she feared the most. "Sister, hold me." Little Ni Yun carefully tugged at Ni Yang's sleeve. Ni Yang let out a soft chuckle, then said, "You're not allowed to eat candy in the future. Otherwise you won't be able to keep your teeth. Sister is feeling a bit unwell today, so I can't hold you." Hearing Ni Yang say she was unwell, a pleased look flashed in Zhang Lingling's eyes. It was just a matter of today. As long as Zhang Suyu didn't mess up tonight, Ni Yang was going to meet the king of hell. Upon this thought, Zhang Lingling picked up the tea from the table, took a small sip, and felt extremely satisfied. Concluding her words, Ni Yang continued, "But I brought you a gift. Guess what it is? It's candy." Little Ni Yun suddenly got excited. "I wish." On hearing this, little Ni Yun's smile immediately vanished from her face, as she pitifully said, "Candy isn't tasty at all. It's spicy, like a magician." Ni Yang seemed to conjure a bunch of fresh lotus flowers and lotus pods from behind her. "Wow, so beautiful." Little Ni Yun immediately forgot all the unpleasantness, and took the lotus in both hands. "So fragrant." Zhang Xianjing was sitting on the sofa across from them. Watching the adorable little Ni Yun, she found it difficult to control her emotions, feeling an urge to strangle her to death. This feeling was strange, as if every cell in her body was screaming, "Strangle her! Strangle her!" Apart from jealousy, it was a pure desire to strangle her. Once Ni Yang was dead, she definitely planned to find a way to personally strangle the little wretch. Zhang Xianjing narrowed her eyes, and under the light, a sinister gleam reflected in the depths of her eyes. Zhang Suyu looked at Ni Yang's pale face and felt a wave of guilt rise within her. She had let Ni Yang down. Zhang Suyu tightly clutched the cushion on the sofa, her knuckles turning so white they were devoid of any color. Ni Yang sat on the sofa peeling lotus seeds for little Ni Yun. After a while, she handed the lotus pod to Ni Tsuehua and stood up. Mom, I'm going to go upstairs to sleep for a bit. Call me when it's time to eat. Ni Tsuehua looked at Ni Yang. Yang, you look quite ill. Are you sure you don't need to go to the hospital? No need. Ni Yang smiled and said, if there's really a problem, I can just prescribe some medicine for myself to take. Mom, don't worry. Saying this, Ni Yang headed upstairs. Zhang Suyu watched Ni Yang's retreating figure, the feeling of guilt in her eyes deepening. At dinner time, Ni Tsuehua called out several times before Ni Yang came down from upstairs. Her complexion was even worse than before she went up, not only pale but also showing intense weariness, yawning repeatedly, as if she could never sleep well enough. Yang, you should go upstairs to rest, and he'll have someone bring up your meal, suggested old Master Zheng. Ni Yang waved her hands. No need, Grandpa. I'm not that delicate. During the meal, Zhang Suyu ate without tasting the food. Chapter 896. She died. _6. She thought she shouldn't make any more mistakes. She couldn't make any more mistakes. Zhang Suyu stared at the greens in front of her as if she had made a secret decision. After dinner, Ni Yang dragged her heavy feet upstairs. After returning to her room, Zhang Suyu didn't use the excuse of feeling unwell to seek out Ni Yang anymore. Zhang Lingling had been observing Zhang Suyu all along, and seeing that there was no movement on Zhang Suyu's side, she became anxious. Seeing that Ni Yang was about to die, yet Zhang Suyu made no further moves, how could she not be anxious? Zhang Lingling took a bowl of chicken soup from the kitchen and carried it to Zhang Suyu's room. Aunt Suyu, I've brought you some chicken soup. Zhang Lingling knocked on the door. Hearing Zhang Lingling's voice, Zhang Suyu was startled. I am already asleep. Zhang Lingling softly said, Aunt Suyu, I know you haven't slept yet. You didn't eat much tonight, so I specifically brought you some chicken soup. Zhang Suyu's face turned pale. She walked over from inside and tremblingly opened the door for Zhang Lingling. Aunt Suyu, I'll leave the chicken soup here. Zhang Suyu stood there, her hands nervously crossed together. Aunt Suyu, why didn't you go to see Ni Yang today? Zhang Lingling turned her head to look at Zhang Suyu. When you're ill, you should see a doctor. Did you forget about that today? I... Zhang Suyu's eyes reddened as she looked up. I can't harm people, please, can't we stop this? Sure. Zhang Lingling grinned. Since you've given up on that child now, don't regret it later. The last 4 words made Zhang Suyu shudder all over. What should she do? What should she do now? Zhang Lingling continued. Aunt Suyu, it's late, I'll head back first. As for the rest, you'd better think it through. For someone like Zhang Suyu, all talk was useless if it wasn't to the point. I'll go out with you. Zhang Suyu followed Zhang Lingling's steps. Zhang Lingling looked back at Zhang Suyu, feigning ignorance. Aunt Suyu, why are you following me? Zhang Suyu said. I'm feeling unwell and I'm going to see Miss Yang for treatment. That's more like it. Zhang Lingling said, pleased. Aunt Suyu, you are an educated and smart person. You should know that a wise man submits to circumstances. The two left together. Zhang Lingling headed towards her own room, while Zhang Suyu walked towards Ni Yang's room. Ni Yang sat in front of the dressing mirror, with a reflection showing a pale face. This face worried Ni Tsuehua, let alone how fearful she felt looking at herself. After a while, Ni Yang looked up at the clock again. Something was off. Very off. Yesterday at this time, she had finished a cup of tea. But today Zhang Suyu hadn't made a single move. Just as Ni Yang was lost in her thoughts, there came a knocking at the door. Is Yang in the room? Yes. Ni Yang replied weakly, walking over to open the door. Auntie, you're here. Seeing Ni Yang's increasingly pale face, Zhang Suyu suppressed the guilt rising within her and continued. Yang, I'm still feeling a bit unwell today. Could you take a look for me? Sure. Ni Yang nodded. Should we do it here in my room, or shall we go to your room? Let's go to my room. Zhang Suyu said. All right. And I Yang followed Zhang Suyu's steps. And I Yang's room was separated from Zhang Suyu's room by a long corridor. Zhang Suyu walked in front. Yang, your complexion keeps getting worse. Maybe you should see a doctor. It's nothing. And I Yang shook her head nonchalantly. What if it is something? Zhang Suyu asked. And I Yang looked at Zhang Suyu. Aunt Suyu? Why do you sound so sure? Zhang Suyu, fearing An I Yang might suspect something, quickly averted her gaze and poured An I Yang a glass of water. I was just saying, Yang, drink some water. This time, An I Yang drank the water without leaving a drop. Zhang Suyu watched her and couldn't describe her feelings. Just 3 days ago, An I Yang had confidently said she could help her. But now, An I Yang couldn't even differentiate poison from boiling water. Sigh. Zhang Suyu sighed deeply in her heart. An I Yang placed the empty glass on the table and looked at Zhang Suyu. Aunt Suyu, don't you really have anything to say to me? No. Zhang Suyu shook her head, thought for a moment, and then added, Yang, I know your medical skills are good, but a doctor doesn't heal themselves. You should visit the hospital when you have time. An I Yang didn't respond to her remark and stood up. Aunt Suyu, you should rest early. I'm going back to my room. The next morning, An I Yang's condition was worse than the previous 2 days. She was barely holding on. Grandfather Zhang and Grandmother Zhang were very worried and insisted on taking An I Yang to the hospital. But An I Yang refused again. With An I Yang unwilling to go, the 2 elders didn't have any other options and could only worry. Zhang Lingling feigned concern. That girl Yang really, being ill and still not going to the hospital. She looks so pale it hurts me to see it. Ting, you should persuade Yang too. And I Tsuahua was also very anxious. Yang has always been decisive. If she doesn't want to go to the hospital, there's nothing I can do. Zhang Lingling sighed. A daughter doesn't always follow her mother. And I Yang visited the detective agency. After getting useful information, she returned to the Zhang family house, closed her room door, and slept soundly. After all, she was ill and needed to rest properly. At dinner time, An I Yang did not come downstairs. An I Tsuehua and Shangguan Dehui, worried something might happen to her, personally brought the food to An I Yang's bowl. The couple stayed in An I Yang's room for a good while, and when they finally came out, both had rather unpleasant expressions on their faces. While some were grieving, Zhang Xianjing was overjoyed. Mom, is An I Yang about to die? Yes. Zhang Lingling nodded. She probably won't make it till tomorrow morning. Great. The next morning, An I Yang didn't come downstairs for breakfast. Grandmother Zhang said, Fuzeo, go call Yang down for breakfast. All right. After a while, a terrified scream came from upstairs. Ah! Then they saw Fuzeo running downstairs in a panic. No good. Madam, something terrible has happened. What's wrong, Fuzeo? Take your time and tell us. Fuzeo's eyes were wide open, clearly not yet recovered from the shock. Miss Yang. She. Grandmother Zhang stood up anxiously. What happened to her? Speak up. She. Fuzeo swallowed, her voice trembling. She's dead. Zhang Xianjing nodded, knelt down, crying out, Yang, what happened to you? Yang. Zhang Lingling, wiping her tears, said, Yang will definitely be fine. Ms. Fu, go call Dr. Jiang quickly. And I Yang was very cunning. What if she had blown herself up? So they needed Dr. Jiang to confirm. Zhang Lingling was a very cautious person. Okay, I'm going now. Ms. Fu immediately ran out in a panic. The Zhang family was in complete disarray. Zhang Suyu had not slept well last night, so she got up a bit late this morning. Grabbing a servant, she asked, What's going on in the house? The servant's expression was grim. You'll know if you go to Miss Yang's room. A bad premonition rose in Zhang Suyu's heart, and she walked upstairs. Dr. Jiang had already arrived. She sat by the bed, pressed her stethoscope to An Yang's body, sighed, and said, "Ting ting, da hui, mourn her loss." Hearing Dr. Jiang's words, Zhang Lingling's hanging heart finally relaxed. Zhang Suyu walked in just in time to hear this. Immediately, her mind went blank. Mourn her loss? Why mourn? Zhang Suyu's eyes followed to the bedside, and saw the pale, silent An Yang. An Yang, dead? Horror struck Zhang Suyu, her blood running cold. She staggered several steps, and finally fell to the ground. It was her fault that An Yang was dead. It was her fault that An Yang was dead. Zhang Suyu opened her mouth. A hard lump formed in her throat, and she could not make a sound. She had never intended to kill An Yang. Chapter 898. What on earth is going on? Zhang Lingling said that it wasn't poison, right? Why did An Yang die? Why? Sweat formed in layers on Zhang Suyu's back as she covered her face with her hands and wept silently. Upon hearing the news, An Tsuehua burst into tears. "No, my Yang is all right. She's just sleeping." Mrs. Zhang fainted. Dr. Zhang hurried to provide first aid to Mrs. Zhang. Mr. Zhang stood by the bed, his whole being numb, like a body without a soul. Mom, are you all right?" Zhang Lingling was worried sick when she saw Mrs. Zhang collapse. Zhang Xianjing was busy trying to comfort An Tsuehua. The small bedroom was filled with sorrow. Zhang Lingling cried out, "Mom, you mustn't fall ill. Even though Yang is gone, you still have Xianjing, you still have Yun. They are your granddaughters." Under Dr. Jiang's resuscitation, Mrs. Zhang slowly opened her eyes cloudy with sadness. Yang. She couldn't believe that An Yang had left her, had left this home. What on earth is going on? Is this a dream? Shangguan Dehui steadied himself and asked Dr. Jiang. "Dr. Jiang, what illness did Yang have? Why did she go so suddenly?" Dr. Jiang sighed. "It was a sudden cardiac death. This disease usually shows symptoms 1 to 3 days before, such as drowsiness, pale complexion, fatigue, and other signs." Zhang Suyu clutched the carpet beneath her. She remembered clearly, An Yang had shown those symptoms when she took the medicine. She really did kill An Yang. It was really her. Zhang Suyu's face was filled with guilt and sadness. Shangguan Dehui frowned slightly. Yang was only 19 years old. How could she have suffered from cardiac arrest? Dr. Jiang, with eyes red, said, "This disease doesn't discriminate by age, though it does also depend on individual constitution." He patted Shangguan Dehui's shoulder. "Dehui, I know it's hard to bear the grief of the younger generation passing before the older, but what's done is done. You should mourn." Shangguan Dehui clenched his fist and fiercely slammed the wall. His whole body trembled. Both Mr. and Mrs. Zhang could not believe the reality. Tears streamed down their faces. "Mom, Dad, you must mourn, but take care of yourselves. The Zhang family still relies on you to lead," Zhang Lingling continued. "He'll go to send the funeral notice and tell everyone to come to Yang's." Zhang Lingling wasn't finished speaking when Mr. Zhang interrupted her. "Don't send any funeral notice. No one is allowed to go. Yang is not dead." "Dad!" Zhang Lingling looked up at Mr. Zhang. "I know it's hard for you, and it's hard for all of us. Yang was such a clever and kind girl. We all loved her, but the dead cannot be brought back to life. Even if you don't want to face the reality, what's happened has happened. It's time to let Yang rest in peace." Zhang Lingling's face appeared sorrowful. In fact, she was jubilant inside. She couldn't wait to send An Yang to the crematorium. Afterward, the Zhang family would be theirs. Mr. Zhang looked at Zhang Lingling. "If you dare to go, Zhang Jun will no longer consider you his daughter." Dr. Jiang interjected timely. "Lingling, Yang was your father's most beloved granddaughter. It's normal for him not to accept this reality so suddenly. Just listen to your father this time. Sending out the funeral notice now would only rub salt in his wounds. After all, An Yang was already dead. Even without a funeral notice, it wouldn't change the fact that she was dead. If Zhang Lingling were to hurry to send the funeral notice, it would only attract criticism. Zhang Lingling understood the undertone of the doctor's words and wiped her tears. I was just worried that seeing Yang Yang still lying here would make my father even more upset. I didn't think it through. Mr. Zhang didn't allow Zhang Lingling to send the funeral notice. For the time being, no one outside the Zhang family knew that Ni Yang was dead. Even though no funeral notice was sent, they still needed to arrange for someone to keep vigil overnight. Currently, the Zhang family was old and young, sorrowful and vulnerable. Dr. Jiang nudged Zhang Lingling. Zhang Lingling instantly understood Dr. Jiang's hint and stepped forward. Let our family of 3 keep vigil for Yang Yang tonight. Mrs. Zhang had already lost her ability to think. Your dad, your Granny Jiang, and I will all be there. It's not like you'll be alone. With these words, Zhang Xianjing felt much more at ease. Soon, Sun Wu, looking travel-weary, returned from outside. The moment he entered the house, he couldn't wait to confirm with Zhang Lingling. Is Ni Yang really dead? Really dead? Zhang Lingling nodded. A look of joy was difficult to hide on Sun Wu's face. That's fantastic. Zhang Lingling added. Be restrained later. Don't let your emotions show on your face. Those 2 old fools still haven't accepted the reality. They don't even want to issue a death notice. According to Beijing customs, when someone dies in the family, firecrackers are to be set off. Old Mr. Zhang, however, wouldn't allow the issuance of a death notice, and he didn't even permit the setting off of firecrackers. Who cares whether they issue a death notice or not, as long as she's dead? Sun Wu asked again to confirm. Ni Yang is really dead? There's no mistake, right? Zhang Lingling said with a smile. Aunt Jiang checked personally. How could there be a mistake? That's good. Sun Wu breathed a sigh of relief, then asked, when will she be sent for cremation? Zhang Lingling replied, it will probably take a few more days. By the way, get cleaned up first, we have to keep a vigil tonight. Okay. Sun Wu went to the bathroom to take a shower. Night gradually fell. The murky darkness enveloped the Zhang family's villa. Caw, caw. The harsh, hoarse cries of crows came from outside, making people's skin crawl. Ni Yang lay on the spirit bed in the middle of the side hall. A censer burned 3 joss sticks, and beside it was a copper basin where paper money was burning. The burning paper money is also known as journey money. The road to the netherworld is not like the roads amongst the living. Crossing a bridge costs money, ferrying across the forgetful river costs money, and bribing the underworld messengers costs money. Therefore, someone must kneel in front of the basin, constantly burning paper money, and ensuring that the flame does not go out. Zhang Xianjing knelt in front of the basin burning paper money. Hearing footsteps, she feigned sincerity. Yang Yang, may your journey be smooth. Rest assured, I will take good care of grandfather and grandmother in your place. Chapter 900. Shangguan Dehui, looking exhausted, came downstairs and said to Zhang Lingling, Mom and Dad were too heartbroken during the day and have already fallen asleep. Ting Ting isn't doing too well either. It's tough for you, brother-in-law, and Xianjing to take care of Yang Yang here. Zhang Lingling nodded her head. Dehui, rest assured. They'll take good care of Yang Yang. You should go take care of Ting Ting. I'm worried Yang Yang might not be able to cope with the loss. Sun Wu said. Brother-in-law, we are all one family. There's no need for talk of hardship. Yang Yang's sudden departure has left all of us deeply saddened. To think such a good child could just sigh. It really seems like the good die young. Shangguan Dehui painfully pinched his temples. Maybe that was just Yang Yang's fate? After pausing, he continued, Sister, brother-in-law, they'll go upstairs first then. Go on, get some sleep. You'll feel better. The deceased has passed on. The living must go on. Shangguan Dehui turned and went back upstairs. In a blink of an eye, only Zhang Lingling, Zhang Xianjing, and Sun Wu, the family of 3, were left in the spacious side hall. The night grew ever darker. It was already deep into the night. Though it was already June, which should be a hot season, there was a bone-chilling coldness in the air. The Zheng family house fell into an eerie silence, without a single sound to be heard. Zhang Xianjing huddled her shoulders. "Mom, I'm a bit scared." For some reason, she always felt something was off, as if a pair of eyes were staring at her from somewhere. "What's there to be afraid of?" Zhang Lingling said nonchalantly. "Aren't Mom and Dad here?" Sun Wu said, "Xianjing, you must do great things in the future. How can you be so scared by just a corpse?" Just at that moment, footsteps sounded from behind them. In the dead of silence, the faint sound of footsteps seemed extraordinarily terrifying. Zhang Xianjing swallowed hard and quickly hid behind Zhang Lingling, nearly knocking over the burning brazier, her face ashen. "Xianjing, what's wrong? Why are you so frightened?" A familiar voice filled the air. Zhang Xianjing turned her head to see that it was Dr. Jiang, and she let out a sigh of relief. It wasn't a ghost. Knowing everyone else was asleep, Zhang Lingling dropped the pretense and said with a smile, "This child is afraid of ghosts." Dr. Jiang walked over to Zhang Xianjing. "Xianjing, Grandma Jiang tells you that there are no ghosts in this world. There's nothing for you to be afraid of." "Okay." Zhang Xianjing nodded. Zhang Lingling then said, "Auntie Jiang, they won't even let us publish the obituary. When can N.I. Yang be taken for cremation?" "Don't let her body end up rotting and maggot-ridden in the house." Summer was indeed the season when maggots bred the fastest. Dr. Jiang replied, "That's not for you to worry about. If it really gets to that, your parents will be the ones in a rush." Zhang Lingling nodded. "Why did N.I. Yang die?" Zhang Suyu, seemingly coming out of nowhere, grabbed Zhang Lingling by the collar and demanded, "Didn't you say that medicine wasn't poisonous? Then why did N.I. Yang die?" If she had known that medicine could be lethal, she would never have hurt N.I. Yang. Zhang Lingling's face immediately changed. "What are you talking about?" Even though the Zheng family members were asleep, what if someone came downstairs for water and overheard this? Dr. Jiang pulled Zhang Suyu aside and whispered, "Suyu, the dead cannot be resurrected. Calm down. The dead have passed, but the living must continue to live." The last sentence was gentle yet heavy, turning Zhang Suyu's face completely pale. "You killed N.I. Yang. It was you all who killed N.I. Yang." Zhang Suyu sobbed. "You people will get your comeuppance." Dr. Jiang fiercely squeezed Zhang Suyu's arm. "Don't forget, it was you who personally gave N.I. Yang that medicine to drink." Zhang Suyu closed her eyes, her face covered with tears. She didn't understand why her life had turned out this way. It was her fault. She had caused N.I. Yang's death. She was a sinner. Just then, the crystal light on the ceiling suddenly went out. Creak, a gust of cold wind blew in from outside, opening the door that had been securely closed, and a layer of white smoke arose in the dim room. The chill was suffocating. The surroundings became utterly quiet in an instant. Everyone stared unblinkingly at the door, their pupils dilating. Even Zhang Lingling and Dr. Jiang, who didn't believe in ghosts, felt a chill in their hearts. Zhang Xianjing was so scared that she clung tightly to Sun Wu. "Dad, Dad, is it N.I. Yang who has come back? She's come back for revenge." Sun Wu swallowed. "No, there are no ghosts in this world. Don't scare yourself." "Jiang Yan, do you really think I'm unaware of my own cause of death? You gave the poison to Zhang Suyu. You instructed her to do it. You are the main culprit, the murderer." Dr. Jiang's feet kicked wildly in midair, but hit nothing. Zhang Lingling hurriedly knelt down, kowtowing. Yes, the murderer is Jiang Yan. She's the main culprit. The one who poisoned you was Jiang Yan. She did it all by herself. Jiang Yan is a heartless, malicious woman. This has nothing to do with us. When she was about to poison you, I even spoke out to stop her. But this malicious woman wouldn't listen. If you want revenge, go after Jiang Yan. Tear her to pieces. Take her to hell. Please spare our family of 3. We don't want to die. Zhang Lingling's forehead was bloody. A faint smell of blood permeated the air. Zhang Lingling was a person who greatly valued her life. Of course, at this moment, preservation was paramount. After all, Dr. Jiang was already old. She had lived long enough, but their family of 3 had great days ahead. They had many blessings yet to enjoy. Their family of 3 could not die. Hearing this, Sun Wu also hurriedly knelt beside Zhang Lingling. It was all Jiang Yan's doing. That malicious woman tried to poison and kill you. It has nothing to do with us. Take her away quickly. Let Jiang Yan be thrown into a pot of boiling oil. Let her be chopped into thousands of pieces. This really has nothing to do with us? Dr. Jiang looked incredulously at Zhang Lingling and Sun Wu kneeling on the ground. She had never imagined that they would push all the blame onto her. In fact, before this, Dr. Jiang had prepared herself and Zhang Suyu to take on all the responsibility, to spare Zhang Lingling and Sun Wu's family of 3. Chapter 902. But now, this family of 3 had the audacity to bite back. There was a world of difference between stepping forward voluntarily and being pushed out. At that moment, Dr. Jiang's anger was ignited. The ugliness of human nature was fully displayed. Wu Wu, Dr. Jiang painfully struggled. Do you have something to say? An Yang asked softly, lowering her eyes. Wu Wu, Dr. Jiang nodded. An Yang slowly released her. Fine. Then he'll let you speak your mind. Dr. Jiang fell to the ground with a thud. Her neck now marked by 5 distinct finger marks, gasping heavily. Regaining a bit of strength, she backhanded Zhang Lingling with a slap. Slap! I'll kill you today, you ungrateful daughter. I worked tirelessly to bring you from M country to Beijing, to give you the life of a pampered lady, to eat and drink well every day, and this is how you repay me. Wretch! You're just a wretch. The one who deserves to go to hell, the one who deserves to be fried in oil is you. Wretch! Zhang Lingling was first slapped by Dr. Jiang, then wrestled with her. In that instant, all blood relations and familial love disintegrated. Shattered. It's all your fault. If it weren't for your disgraceful schemes of replacing the peach with the plum and the baby swapping, I would never have ended up in the Zhang family. If I hadn't come to the Zhang family, I wouldn't have been haunted by evil spirits today. I wouldn't have been haunted, and our family of 3 wouldn't be in mortal danger. It's all your fault. All because of you, you evil woman. Ungrateful daughter. Ungrateful daughter. Dr. Jiang angrily said. I, Jiang Yan, have been clever all my life, only to find that I've raised a thankless wretch. Today, I will strangle you to cleanse our Jiang family. She had tried her best to give Zhang Lingling a good life. Yet, instead of being grateful, Zhang Lingling had blamed her. Thankless wretches. All of them, thankless wretches. Scoundrel. You don't deserve to be my daughter. Dr. Jiang was truly furious. Her handling of Zhang Lingling's hair messy and chaotic, with broken hair all over the floor. The air was tinged with a faint smell of blood. Fearing that Zhang Lingling might get hurt, Sun Wu also joined in. The 3 wrestled together. Bang, bang, bang. Surrounding vases and antique pieces shattered. At some unknown moment, the crystal lamp above their heads turned on, but the brawlers did not notice and continued to scuffle. Someone closed the door. An aged yet powerful voice echoed through the air. Then came the sound of orderly footsteps. Bang! All doors and windows of the side hall were shut. Dr. Jiang turned to look at old Mrs. Zhang. She wore fine silks, had a crowd of people always attending her, and a husband who treasured her like a gem. Me? At 20, I was abandoned, left to give birth alone, living under someone else's roof, worrying every day whether I'd have enough to eat. Her? She wouldn't eat leftovers, washed her hands with yuan per bucket sterilized water, and even her family's pet dog ate better than I did. Tell me, why wouldn't I behave this way? Actually, life abroad hadn't been easy for Dr. Jiang. The cost of living overseas was very high. She was too embarrassed to keep asking Zhao Lan for money, so she adopted a work-study approach, and the seeds of hatred were quietly sown then. And Zhao Lan? She didn't offer money when she saw Dr. Jiang wasn't asking for it. Zhao Lan never cared whether she had eaten enough or had money to spend. She envied Zhao Lan. Why should Zhao Lan have everything without doing anything, while she, who worked so hard, couldn't have the life she wanted? After completing her studies smoothly, Zhao Lan married a man of Chinese descent who had pursued her for a long time. Dr. Jiang too started a relationship with a classmate. A year later, they each had a daughter, one after the other. Dr. Jiang thought she could finally settle down, but she hadn't anticipated that her partner would be faithless. After their daughter was born, he completely disappeared. Seeing her plight, Zhao Lan let her and her daughter move into her residence. But Dr. Jiang didn't need Zhao Lan's sympathy. Living under Zhao Lan's roof, she watched Zhao Lan's family lead a blissfully happy life, and she nearly went mad with jealousy. Every day, she cursed Zhao Lan and her family to die. Finally, one day, her curses came true. Zhao Lan's family died in a plane crash. Both spouses died instantly, leaving behind the young Chao Lingrui. It was then that Dr. Jiang knew her opportunity had arrived. Chapter 903. Retribution is here. Zhao Lan and her husband had no relatives or friends abroad, and in the hasty moments before the plane crash, they left a will entrusting their young daughter Chao Lingrui to Dr. Jiang, hoping Dr. Jiang would take her back to China to find her sister, Zhao Qing. After receiving this news, Dr. Jiang was ecstatic. She swiftly handled Zhao Lan's affairs and set off for China with Chao Lingrui. At the time, Chao Lingrui was just a 7-year-old child. With her parents both dead, Dr. Jiang became her only support. While her parents were alive, she was the cherished pearl in their palms, always able to have whatever she wanted. After they died, she became an orphan, alone and helpless. Her formerly gentle aunt suddenly showed her true colors, subjecting her to beatings and scoldings, mockery and sarcasm. Even Jiang Xiaomin, her best friend, began to bully her. Young Chao Lingrui didn't understand why they had become this way. Faced with punches and kicks, she dared not fight back. All she wanted was for Dr. Jiang to quickly take her to Beijing, because her mother had mentioned she had an aunt there. Finally, Dr. Jiang took Chao Lingrui aboard a ship bound for their homeland. Chao Lingrui thought she had finally seen hope, but little did she know, this was just the beginning of her nightmare. Dr. Jiang despised Zhao Lan deeply. She naturally wouldn't bring Chao Lingrui back to a life of comfort. As it so happened, Jiang Xiaomin was about the same age as Chao Lingrui, and so Dr. Jiang schemed a plan to swap the two girls. That night, after brutally beating Chao Lingrui, she stuffed her into a sack and threw her into the deep sea. The sea waters engulfed Chao Lingrui's body. With this, Dr. Jiang finally got her revenge. What good was Zhao Lan's family background? What use was her beauty? What was the point of her marrying well? She still lost to herself. She couldn't even protect her own child. She was utterly defeated. Thinking of this, Dr. Jiang felt an immense satisfaction. Looking up at Madame Zhang, she laughed and said, "You and your stupid sister are the same. You have both lost to me. Ha ha ha. Both have lost to me. Do you know how your niece Chao Lingrui died? She drowned in the sea. Just before she died, she begged me like a dog, saying she didn't want to die. Ha ha." Dr. Jiang laughed loudly and then said, "Oh, and do you know who Jiang Xiaomin is? Jiang Xiaomin is my daughter. Zhao Qing, the daughter you've raised for so many years, is actually Jiang Yan's daughter. Xianjing is also my granddaughter. Zhao Qing, not only have you lost, but you've lost miserably. Your sister Zhao Lan's spirit in heaven will never forgive you. If I am to go to hell, then you'll surely go to hell too. You'll accompany me down there." Chapter 904. Retribution is here. _2. Old Mrs. Zhang was fuming with rage, thinking of her young niece and her sister and brother-in-law who died young. She wished she could kill the Dr. Jiang. Dr. Jiang smiled and said, I am already over 60 years old. I've lived enough. I've lived longer than Zhao Lan. I am not wronged. Kill me, Zhao Qing, just kill me. Dr. Jiang was deliberately provoking old Mrs. Zhang. Although she was suspected of murder, if old Mrs. Zhang really strangled her to death, old Mrs. Zhang would also be legally responsible. Anyway, she was facing a dead end, and if she could drag Zhao Qing down with her before she died, it would be worth it. Grandma, stay calm. Don't fall for her trap. The law won't let her get away with it. And Yang pulled old Mrs. Zhang back. Old Mrs. Zhang was sobbing uncontrollably, and Cuehua immediately supported old Mrs. Zhang and comforted her softly. Although she had been prepared, and Cuehua still hadn't expected things to turn out so twisted. Zhang Lingling was actually Dr. Jiang's daughter. That was simply unbelievable. Old Mrs. Zhang turned her head to look at Zhang Suyu. And you, Suyu, you've disappointed me so much. How could you poison Yang Yang? If Yang Yang hadn't noticed something was wrong, she would be dead by now. Why would you conspire with outsiders to harm Yang Yang? Yang Yang is your own grandniece. How could you bring yourself to do it? Why did you do this? Why? Old Mrs. Zhang looked at Zhang Suyu, her emotions on the verge of collapse. These people. One of them was the daughter she had raised for many years. Another was the son-in-law she had personally selected. One was the granddaughter she had watched grow up. Another was an old friend of many years, and another was her own sister-in-law. She could have never dreamed that they would betray her. When Yang proposed this plan, old Mrs. Zhang had thought Yang's idea was absurd. They were her own family. How could she have such suspicions about her own relatives? It was only after Yang's earnest persuasion that old Mrs. Zhang reluctantly agreed to the matter, and she had instructed Yang to apologize to everyone if they couldn't probe anything. But reality had slapped her hard in the face. Sister, I'm sorry. Zhang Suyu's face was streaked with tears. I wronged Yang Yang. She thought she was not to be trusted because she was young. But she never expected that Yang was so much better than her. She could only succumb in front of Dr. Jiang. But Yang was able to pull through by her own strength and turn the tides. Suyu, why did you poison Yang Yang? Old Mr. Zhang looked at Zhang Suyu and said, You are not in cahoots with Jiang Yan, right? Did Jiang Yan threaten you? What did she use to threaten you? Turns out, Zhang Lingling was not Zhao Lan's daughter. Zhang Lingling was Dr. Jiang's daughter. The real Chao Lingrui had long been thrown into the sea by Dr. Jiang. Moreover, Zhang Suyu overheard that Dr. Jiang had instructed Zhang Lingling to put slow-acting poison in Granny Zhang's chicken soup. They wanted to poison Granny Zhang to death. Upon hearing this, Zhang Suyu was scared stiff. As the belle of Beijing, the greatest blow in her life had been being betrayed by a man. She had never encountered something like this before. For a while, she didn't know what to do. In her panic, she knocked over an antique vase beside her. Zhang Suyu immediately ran away, intending to tell Granny Zhang and Mr. Zhang about the plot. Unfortunately, Granny Zhang and Mr. Zhang were out on business that day, and Zhang Suyu waited a long time without them returning. At this time, Dr. Jiang came with a bowl of medicine, smiling at Zhang Suyu. The wet nurse taking care of your daughter is my sister-in-law. Zhang Suyu was stunned at the moment. Her mind was consumed with why Dr. Jiang knew about this. What Zhang Suyu didn't know was that from the moment she gave birth to that child, Dr. Jiang had been plotting. Knowing that Zhang Suyu was looking for a wet nurse, she arranged for her own sister-in-law to go. She was leaving herself a way out. In case she was caught one day in the Zhang family, she would still have a way to turn things around. Dr. Jiang had been scheming for 2 years, and finally, one day, the opportunity to use this information arose. To protect her young daughter, Zhang Suyu had no choice but to drink the medicine. Day after day, year after year, Zhang Lingling brought her a bowl of medicine. Day by day, Zhang Suyu's psychological state deteriorated, becoming gaunt and, eventually, mad, unrecognizable by anyone. The Zhang family thought she was troubled by love, but in reality, she was being poisoned into madness. At this point, Zhang Suyu's tears streamed down her face. Chapter 906. Retribution is here. _4. Suyu, why didn't you tell me these things? I am your brother. Old Master Zheng's voice was filled with sorrow. Foolish. Suyu, you've been too foolish. If Zhang Suyu had spoken out earlier, things wouldn't have turned out this way. Zhang Suyu cried, I didn't know how to tell you. My Bao Bao was in their hands. If I had told you, Bao Bao would have lost his life. At that moment, she couldn't care about anything else. All she wanted was to protect her child. But you still failed to protect that child. A year later, that child met a violent death, said an Aiyang in a shallow tone. If you had told Grandma and Grandpa about this earlier, perhaps that child might not have died. Just like this time, if you had trusted me, I wouldn't have had to resort to blowing things up. Have you ever thought, if I didn't have medical skills, today it wouldn't have been as simple as just being blown up? An Aiyang had died once before. She valued life more than anyone. Although she knew Zhang Suyu had her difficulties, she still couldn't let it go. It was so close. She had nearly died. Zhang Suyu was stunned. She seemed like a statue. She was too cowardly. Not only had she caused the death of her own daughter, but she had also nearly caused an Aiyang's death. Yang, I'm sorry. Zhang Suyu cried out in apology, then suddenly pulled out a dagger from nowhere and charged toward Dr. Jiang. Bitch! Give me back my daughter. Why did you kill my Bao Bao? She was only 2 years old. Just 2. She was going to avenge her daughter. Dr. Jiang didn't dodge. Instead, she looked at Zhang Suyu with a smile. Come on! Kill me. Stab me here. Zhang Suyu, if you're still a mother, then hurry up and avenge your pitiful daughter. Otherwise, I will look down on you. Already at the peak of her rage, Zhang Suyu's anger was further ignited by these words. Old Master Zheng hugged Zhang Suyu tightly. Suyu, don't be impulsive. I'm going to kill her. Suyu, brother is begging you. Please don't do anything foolish. Old Master Zheng knelt down before Zhang Suyu. The Zheng family was already shattered. He couldn't let anything happen to Zhang Suyu. Brother, don't do this. Zhang Suyu also knelt down, and the siblings sobbed together. Dr. Jiang sat on the ground, laughing wildly. That's when the sound of police sirens came from outside. Several police officers, led by the butler, walked into the side hall. Due to the complexity of the case, everyone present was taken to the police station. Zhang Lingling, Sun Wu, and the family of 3 Zhang Xianjing refused to admit their guilt regarding murder and poisoning, vehemently defending themselves. However, Dr. Jiang confessed without any reservation. She knew she could not escape this time. After so many years of luxurious living, she was content. Chapter 907. Retribution is here. _5. Dr. Jiang, Zhang Lingling, and Sun Wu were executed that day. Old Mrs. Zhang bought lots of joss paper, took it to the crossroad and burned it. Sister, brother-in-law Lingling, I've wronged your family of 3. It was my lack of discernment, fostering a tiger to invite trouble. Today is the day that ungrateful family was shot. Sister, brother-in-law Lingling, can you see this? Strangely enough, though it had been clear skies, rain began to fall in the afternoon. The rain continued for 2 days. By the second day, the weather cleared up. With such a major incident in the Zhang family, Anai Tsuehua and Shangguan Dehui feared that staying in the old Zheng house might be too emotionally painful for the 2 elderly, as every corner reminded them of Zhang Lingling, Sun Wu, and Zhang Xianjing. Thus, they suggested that the elders move to Jinghua village with them. The roads to Jinghua village had been fixed, making transportation convenient, and the village had fresh air. Plus, the Anai family's house was well renovated and more comfortable to live in. Old Mr. Zhang and old Mrs. Zhang were very willing. That very day, they dismissed all the servants of the Zhang family and moved to Jinghua village. Anai Cuihua and Shangguan Dehui had moved from Jinghua village to the Zhang house in winter, and now they were moving back in the summertime. Learning that Anai Yang and the others had moved back, the villagers of Jinghua village were very happy. Worried they might have nothing to eat upon just returning, each household brought over a lot of food. Old Mrs. Zhang said with a smile, "The people here are really warm-hearted." Old Mr. Zhang nodded. Indeed. Seeing that old Mr. Zhang and old Mrs. Zhang had moved over, Anai Yang said, "Why don't we bring Grandma over too?" Anai Yang was referring to old Mrs. Shangguan. The Shangguan family only had old Mrs. Shangguan by herself, with Shangguan Su and Shangguan Shi living outside. They usually only came back on weekends, and sometimes they didn't return for weeks. Although Shangguan Dehui, Anai Cuihua, and Anai Yang visited her every week, rain or shine, the old lady was inevitably lonely. You get lonely when you're old. Isn't it just about having some liveliness? Since the Anai family had plenty of rooms with their house, even 10 or 8 more people could fit. Hearing this, Anai Cuihua immediately nodded. Yang really thinks of everything. I've been so busy I didn't even consider it. Your dad and I will go and bring Grandma over now. Old Mrs. Zhang and old Mr. Zhang also nodded in agreement. That's right. That's right. Ting, don't busy yourself, hurry and go with Dehui to bring your in-laws over. Anai Yang then said, I can drive to pick her up. You both stay home and get things ready. Anai Cuihua exclaimed in surprise, Yang, when did you learn to drive? She didn't even know. Anai Yang smiled and said, Mo Chishan taught me. She had to bring up Mo Chishan to avoid her mother's suspicion. Oh, Anai Cuihua didn't suspect anything and continued. Then drive slowly and be careful on the road. I will, don't worry. Old Mr. Zhang called out to Anai Yang. Yang, wait a moment. What is it, Grandpa? Anai Yang turned back to look at old Mr. Zhang. Old Mr. Zhang continued. Yang, your grandma will be here soon. To avoid calling someone wrong in the future, you should call us Grandpa and Grandma from now on. Old Mrs. Zhang nodded. I think what Grandpa... No. What your grandpa said makes sense. Although the custom in Beijing is that children born to daughters with no sons in the house should call their grandparents Grandpa and Grandma, old Mr. Zhang and old Mrs. Zhang didn't care about these things. Grandpa and Grandma, Grandpa and Grandma. As long as there is kinship, it's all the same. Okay, Grandpa and Grandma. Anai Yang quickly changed her way of addressing them. Anai Yang didn't buy a sedan. This car belonged to the Zhang family. Since both elders had moved in, it was inconvenient not to have a car. Just as Anai Yang opened the car door, Gooden came running over from afar. Sister Anai Yang, you're back. Everyone just said you were back. And I didn't believe it. Gooden. Anai Yang reached out and touched Gooden's little head. Sister Anai Yang, is this your car? Gooden asked. Anai Yang shook her head. No, it belongs to my grandpa and grandma. Gooden laughed and said, if it's your grandpa and grandma's, isn't that just the same as yours? After all, you're all family. Sister Anai Yang, you're really silly. Anai Yang said, Gooden, it's not the same. Only things earned by one's own effort can truly be considered one's own. This car wasn't bought by Sister Anai Yang herself, so it doesn't belong to Sister Anai Yang. You're tuning in to the Legend of the Vagabond YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.